just at 129, 130. We're in the community center at the Sierra Room at 851 East William Street in Carson City, of course. Sue, could we have a roll call, please?
Supervisor Aboud. Here. Supervisor Bonkowski. Here. Supervisor Bagwell. Here. Supervisor Shirk. Here. Mayor. Here.
Thank you very much.
We have a quorum.
And we welcome Supervisor Bagwell to the board here today.
Thank you.
And we also welcome Deputy District Attorney Adriana Freilich and District Attorney Jason Woodbury there. Well, we've got lawyers all over the place today, huh? Okay. And now, in counterpoint to that, we're going to call on our good friend Bruce Henderson to get us started off on the right day on an invocation. Bruce, come on up.
This is not because we have a lot of lawyers here. Maybe it is. Let's pray. Father, we're grateful for a new year. As a matter of fact, today we meet on a new day at a new time and lots of new faces around us. We're grateful for that newness. And we would ask, Lord, that you give us wisdom, kindness, and compassion as we face the issues before our community. And we thank you for placing us here in the greatest of all communities. We ask your guidance. In the name of our Lord, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're now on item number 5, public comment. We take public comment at the beginning and at the end of the meeting, and generally during, where it's appropriate, during each agenda item, which is different than most jurisdictions do, but we will do that. So is there anybody who wants public comment at this time? Does anybody want to raise the good news that I understand is out there that Carson City may be declared on Wednesday the United States capital's the best capital to travel to the United States? I see that. I read on Facebook somewhere during this morning's travels that that's going to be made official Wednesday. So until Wednesday it won't be official, but thanks to all of our community for voting. We did quite well, and it's quite a good mark for our community, so thank you very much. Anybody else? Anything? Okay, if not, then we'll move to the minutes of October 2nd, 2014. Everybody had a chance to look at them?
I move to approve the minutes of October.
Wait. Supervisor Bagwell.
I'd like to abstain from voting on item 6 as I was not here in October.
Abstention noted. Well done.
Now I'd like to move to approve the minutes of October 2nd, 2014 as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. We'll note the one abstention, please, Kathy. Okay. We'll now, yes. We'll now go to the agenda. Any changes to the agenda, Mr. City Manager?
No changes, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Unless there's an objection, we'll adopt the agenda as published. Now let's see here. I think who's here for Radon? Hi, Joanne. Come on. Okay. Let me just walk up and read this real quick.
We brought you mugs, but Jamie's going to tell you about the name of these mugs. These mugs are,
Hang on, we'll get right there.
Oh, okay.
They're Radon special mugs. We're going to do the formality here first. Come up here, both of you. Come on.
okay.
Okay, this is a proclamation for National Radon Action Month, and I think everybody's probably read a little bit about this in the papers recently here. And the month is January 2015. It says, whereas many Carson City residents don't know about radon, yet need to know for the safety and well-being of their families, as radon is a colorless, odorless, naturally occurring radioactive gas that is the leading cause of lung cancer among non-smokers. And whereas the United States EPA estimates 21,000 people in the United States die each year from lung cancer caused by indoor radon exposure and lung and bronchus cancer kills more people in a year than any other cancer. And whereas radon kills more people than secondhand smoke, drunken driving, falls in the home, drowning, or home fires, and whereas any home in Carson City may have elevated levels of radon, you probably all looked at the map that was in the paper, even if neighboring homes do not, and living in a home with an average radon level of 4 picocuries per liter of air poses a similar, got that, huh? Did that all right?
You did.
Picocuries per liter of air poses a similar risk of developing lung cancer as smoking half a pack of cigarettes a day. And whereas testing is the only way to know if a radon problem exists, and testing is easy and inexpensive, and when identified, the problem can be fixed. And whereas the University of Nevada Cooperative Extension, the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health, and the United States Environmental Protection Agency support efforts to encourage all Carson City residents to test their homes for radon, mitigate elevated levels of radon, and have new homes built with radon-reducing materials and features. Now, therefore, I, Robert L. Kroll, Mayor of Carson City, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim January 2015 as National Radon Action Month. And I want to give this to you, Joanne, and we'd like you to talk a little bit about radon and things of that nature, and introduce
My colleague?
your colleague here. And also, I know it's in the paper, but you might talk to someone about all the homes that have granite countertops.
I'm going to let Jamie address that.
Okay, you're going to address it. All right, I'm going to go back up here and sit and listen.
Thank you. For the record, Joanne Skelly, Extension Educator for University of Nevada Cooperative Extension, and my role today is simply to introduce the specialist. It's Jamie Royce Gomes, and she's going to talk a little bit about radon. I just talked to the Lion Clubs a few minutes ago and found when I am in doing my research to do my presentation, 89703 zip code has a 58% chance of radon potential. So just so you know, I thought I'd let you know that one because that one's stuck in the head. So here is Jamie to give you information not only about radon, but these really cool mugs that she brought for you.
Hi, thank you. So this is the 7th year that the Board of Supervisors had provided us with a proclamation, and I just want to say thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. Actually, Carson City County is the 2nd highest county within the state of Nevada for radon problem. So it's great that you guys are helping us to raise awareness of this deadly radioactive gas, radon. Free test kits are from now until the end of February to all Nevada residents, and after that, they're $7. You can pick up a test kit at the Cooperative Extension here in Carson City, and their address is 2621 North Gate Lane. They're open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, or else you can even call us at our hotline 1-888-RADON-10, or visit our website, www.radonnv.com. So you have a question about granite countertops. So radon does come from uranium found naturally in the rocks and soil and the water. It comes from higher concentrations within granite, shale, and phosphates. We have a lot of naturally occurring granite in the area, and those homes do have elevated radon levels. As far as your granite countertops, yes, radon does come from that. However, it emanates only about 4 inches off of your granite countertop. So basically, you have to be sleeping on your granite countertops to get lung cancer from that. And typically, people don't do that. So it's not a concern. Please keep your granite countertops. I have a granite countertop. Our radiation physicist who oversees us, he has a granite countertop too. So I brought test kits as well as these cool little mugs. Let me grab one. So this is called a thermochromatic sublimation mug. And basically it means when you add hot liquid to this, it changes into a message. And I had a lot of fun designing this, so I hope you guys enjoy it. And does anybody want a test kit? Because I do have them.
I do.
Yeah. So 4 of them? Yeah. 5? Okay. 6? Sold. Well, we'll get that to you, and we'll pass out these great mugs. Thank you very much.
So is the message the same on all the mugs?
Yep, it is.
Okay, we'll find out what the message is. That's
yeah.
good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Your thermal sublimation.
Our blue mug.
special one.
Thank you very much.
And I don't have an extra one, but you can visit the extension office.
I was teasing you.
Okay.
I'm not going to give you mine. I want to check first.
That's where I was going, Bob.
Okay, all right. All right. Thank you very much, and thanks to the Cooperative Extension for all the good things that you do for our community. Thanks, Joanne, very much. Okay. All right. Now let's take up item number 9. This is potential possible action to reappoint Deborah Marzeline. Did I get that, Deborah?
Marzeline.
Marzeline, I thought that was it. As the ex officio public guardian. You want to do this again?
Yes, I do.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on in the
I
office
am.
and
I will. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. My name is Deborah Marzeline. I've been your public guardian for the last 4 years, and I'm seeking reappointment for the next 4 years. When I took office 4 years ago, my caseload was 37. Today I have 62 cases, and I have 3 pending right now. And it will continue to grow as the population ages. I have clients in 7 different facilities in town, as well as in Gardnerville, Reno, Fallon, and out-of-state facilities, but they all started out here. They're all our citizens. Without our help, these people would be homeless. In fact, some were homeless when we got them, or deceased. My office ensures that these people are safe and taken care of. My current staff includes a full-time case manager and social worker, a part-time accounting position, and part-time unpaid social work interns, and a volunteer. Challenges my office faces are persons with dementia, not only of the Alzheimer's type, but dementia brought on by alcoholism, drug abuse, and also concurrent mental illness complicates dementia as they age. We also have elder abuse cases in which we work closely with the district attorney's office. We had another successful holiday season where we personally delivered over 60 gifts to our clients from generous donations from the community. So far this year, since July 1st, we have collected $54,737 in fees. In 2013-2014, our receipts were approximately $118,259. In addition, we use the City P card, which in average we charge $60,000 a month, in which we receive revenue back from the Bank of America. Questions?
Can you tell me the average length that you have a guardianship?
I've had some of my clients I've had since the last guardian. Some I have for 2 weeks. We get them and then they pass away. So that's usually how our clients leave us, as they pass away, or else family shows up and takes them out of state or something. That doesn't happen very often.
So then my follow-up, so what research or what do you do to locate a family member or a friend to take the case?
We vet all of our cases first and look for family members. We have family members that live around town that won't have anything to do with our clients. It's usually we have them because no one else will look after them, and they've been deemed incompetent by the court.
Good morning, Deborah. Good, I'm sorry, that's right, it's afternoon. I'm so used to the routine. Sorry, I apologize. You mentioned your staff. Do you have an office, and how is your staff, where is that office located? I'm not familiar with it.
It's within the clerk recorder's office at the courthouse.
And your staff?
My staff, we're all there. I started out with 1 part-time position and myself 4 years ago. We since added another part-time position, and then this last year we took one of my part-time positions and made it a full-time position because we were just, almost doubled our caseload.
Thank you.
That leads into my question. With your increasing caseload, the potential for hiring more is obviously going to be the case.
Right. I may be before you in not too long having my accounting position made into a full-time position at some point.
Any other questions of Deborah? Do we want to go there? This is a difficult job that you have.
It is. We enjoy it. We enjoy the challenge. As social workers, we enjoy the challenge.
Yeah. Because the sad thing is, and you mentioned it, is that there are people in this community who have relatives near them that don't want anything to do with them.
Right.
And either, one, financially don't want anything to do with them or to support them, and two, it's probably even more egregious, is they don't want anything to do with them emotionally.
Right.
And that's sad.
I have other family members that live, like in Maryland, that want to be involved. But of course, they can't be a guardian because they don't live in the state. But they are involved and want to help as much as possible.
Nick, did you want to weigh in?
Oh, it's nice meeting you.
Board, are we ready for motions and orders?
Public comment.
Oh, public comment. We'll do comment. Don't see any.
I move to reappoint Deborah Marzeline as the ex officio public guardian of Carson City for a term of 4 years at grade UNC 23.
Motion by Supervisor Abad, second by Supervisor Shirk on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you very much, Deborah.
Thank you.
Go continue to do good work. Thank you. Thought I had. Got the one with the stamp on it. I thought I could just give it to her right now, but it's not the official one. Okay. Was saying up here, Deborah, I thought I had your certificate up here, but I got the one with the stamp on it, but we'll get it to you, okay? All right. Let's take up item number 10, Parks and Rec. This is the issue with respect to disc golf on Flint Drive. Who's doing this? Vern, go.
I'll take it, sir. I'm really pleased to be here I was going to say tonight, but this afternoon. I can't even get my morning straight either because of the change. Anyway, the Parks and Recreation Commission, along with city staff, has been working with a number of disc golf course advocates around the community and have been trying to locate a spot to put our first disc golf course here in Carson City. And today we're here with our advocates. I have to my right Greg Swift, who's been kind of with us from the beginning on all this and has been kind of keeping us in line as we've been moving forward. And we also, I believe, have a couple advocates out there that may want to testify. But we want to share with you the location that we've believe we found. We think it's a great location, and we wanted to share that with you today. Oh, thank you. We've been working with the disc golf course advocates, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, about 1.5 years to kind of go through this process. It certainly has been a grassroots effort from a citizen's perspective. They've approached us. They've had the energy. We've just tried to guide that energy as best we could. For those of you who don't know, disc golf is a nationally growing sport. They have amazingly passionate players. They love this game, and Greg will probably share some of that energy with you as I'm going to have him talk on a couple things. I mentioned earlier we talked about 9 sites. We've looked at 9 different sites that we've vetted, which took us all over the course of the town, both east, south, north, and west. One of the other things, too, that many of you may not know is that a lot of the local municipalities around us, Incline Village, Indian Hills, Dayton, Reno, have disc golf courses and for their folks and for their youth and their families. So we were hoping that with this partnership that we're creating with our disc golf course advocates, that could bring us into that pack of folks or municipalities with that. The disc golf course will serve all different types of people. It'll serve youth, families, active seniors, and it really is a truly multi-generational outdoor experience for folks. What is disc golf? I thought it would be better. I gave you in the packet kind of what, in your packet you received a little quick definition from the Professional Disc Golf Course Association, but I thought I'd ask Greg to just share with you just a little bit about, from his perspective or from one of the advocates' perspective, what is disc golf?
Hi, Greg Swift, and longtime resident and also a longtime disc golfer.
Welcome to the board, Greg.
Thank you, Mayor. Currently, there's over 4,800 courses in the United States, but in Nevada, we have 10 or less. They are growing quite a bit. I think the best analogy to use to explain the game is It is similar to ball golf in that you tee off at a designated area. You try to complete the hole in the least amount of strokes. On the picture, you can see the basket there, which is the most common way to play the game. The disc must land in that basket, not just hit it and bounce out, but you count the amount of strokes you have. And the sport's just growing leaps and bounds, and you know there's so much different equipment out there, but yet you can play the game with just a disc or two. They have specialized discs for driving, mid-range, putters, all sorts of stuff. So the Professional Disc Golf Association and also a lot of local areas just have a myriad of tournaments going on all the time. Virtually every weekend of the year now, you can find a tournament. I've traveled all over the West Coast to play in many tournaments, and I just, actually, I think when we first presented the disc golf idea, it was well over a year and a half ago, but we've kind of had the formal process going for a year and a half, so I don't know what other questions they have in regards to the game.
Is it? That's on the game. Go ahead and finish.
All right. Yeah, let me just go ahead and finish here. Wanted to share with you the location. We put a couple exhibits in your packet. On the east side of town, let me just kind of orientate everybody. This is the city's sanitary landfill. These are the lands that are kind of cross-hatched that are coming to us through the federal lands bill. Here is Highway 50. And as I indicated in your staff report, the disc golf course is off Flint Drive, and then it also works its way down toward, down along Rifle Range Road. But these lands are coming to the city for parks recreational purposes. So these lands will be city property. We do have to keep in mind that even though they are our property, we do have some requirements that BLM will make us do. Of course, we have to, these properties can only be used for parks and public purposes, as well as we have some environmental clearances that we have to do before any kind of new uses are proposed out there. Currently, the project site that we're looking at, I'll go to kind of the aerial view for everybody. Again, let me orientate. This is the Carson City landfill. Highway 50 goes along there. Eagle Valley Golf Course. Flint Drive is located right here, and it'd be the lands just west of that. And then as you would go out this way on the Rifle Range Road, it is these lands as well. Currently, the lands don't have any particular use other than just view shed and open space, which are obviously important aspects to the community. But as Ann Bollinger and I have been talking about this along with Roger, we think that this is a great blend between the use of open space and a recreational component that has very minimal impact, you know, around, you know, in the area, and it provides a great site. One of the other things.
I'm sorry, could you point out the landfill one more time? I was making notes. I
certainly
wasn't looking up.
Certainly. That area right there is the landfill. And the shooting range is down here. So this, it's quite a ways away, and there is a landform, a large landform that separates. So if you were driving down Rifle Range Road, there's a very large landform that not only separates this property that we're talking about here from the sanitary landfill, but there is a land that landform actually extends further down this way. That also keeps the rifle and pistol range separated from what is happening up here. One of the things that we're talking about, let me back up here real quick. I'm going to show you pictures of the north part of the site first. That'll be the next slide you see, and then there'll be a second slide which will show you the south part of the site. While I do that, I'm going to have Greg talk to you a little bit about why, from a disc golfer's perspective, these lands are, of the 9 we looked at, the best site. So this set of slides is the north end of the project, of the property we're looking at.
Yeah, I think as you can see, the views are really good from up there. Some of the other things that are important it is right off of Highway 50, so finding it and now access off of 580 is pretty close. So I think that part is that it will facilitate travel for people that are coming from out of town. It's not way out of the way. There's really nothing else I mean, there are certain things going on with the flying club and the gun club, but there's not much else going on to conflict with that property. It's a great open area, and I think the most important part from the disc golf aspect is the terrain just is, you have to kind of take what you get in your area, but this one fits the bill with all the contours and the rolling terrain. There's some small trees, a lot of rock outcroppings, and there's plenty of room there to accommodate both the championship course and maybe, you know, a slightly lesser course that would encourage new players and be accessible to everybody at all skill levels.
So some of the project benefits that we believe that this project could offer to Carson City is, since it's out in a natural area, it's going to be a very low maintenance facility. Most of it that at least staff envisions is that you'll be dealing mostly with trash issues. Also, there will probably be, once this facility gets up and going, we'd be looking at putting a little porta potty out there to help with public health safety issues. So we'd be looking at about $160 a month once the course gets up and operational as a cost to the city. That would come out of the Parks and Recreation Department's existing operational budget. We believe also that this is a really low-cost construction benefit. Usually when you're talking about materials, it's between $500 and $750 a hole. That would include a high-quality basket, as well as whatever you're going to build your tees out of, and of course the signs that go along with it that shows you actually how the course is laid out, plus any advertisement type of signs. Currently, the plan is that these construction costs would be raised by, private businesses would be approached for donations to sponsor a hole. They would have an advantage of having an advertisement on a sign out there. So that would get us up and going. That would be volunteer labor. The disc advocates would be using their volunteer labor to put the footings in the ground for the baskets, as well as build the tees for it. We would be looking, as time goes on, probably some real basic and limited site improvements, maybe some picnic tables, a small picnic shelter for shade, some of those kind of minimal improvements, but we'd be looking at that over time, and that would be a part of the overall design process that we will be eventually getting our way into. The hope is right now that we would enter into some sort of a joint use agreement with the advocates, whether they actually form a 501c3 or whether they actually just form a club. That would be something that we would work with them as time goes on with. But the idea would be is that with them we would start looking at ongoing maintenance of the site, trash pickup, maybe doing some site monitoring to make sure that some of the uses out there weren't wearing on our site from a natural resource perspective. And of course, cost sharing. If there's a way they could help us pick up some of the costs for the little porta potties out there, that would be helpful as well. But we're not talking a lot of public dollars here going into this. But the advocates have told us more than once that the sweat equity is something that they're more than willing to put into this place. So if the board approves this location today, what would be the next step? We would start with the course design. As Greg indicated, we'd be looking at probably at least one tournament course. The site does allow us to possibly have 2 tournament courses. He called them championship courses. One beginner course, figuring the tournament or the championship course will be about 40 acres, give or take. So between the 40 acres, 2 tournament courses, that gets us to 80, plus a 10-acre or 15-acre site for a beginner course, plus some other amenities. That gets us to our full 100. So if you're wondering why 100, why not 110? Or 107, that's why. So that's where we're at with that. Some of the other things that we want to be looking at when we look at the course design is resource protection. It is a beautiful site, the topography, the views, and we want to keep it as pristine as we can. And so that's one of the things we'll be looking at when we lay out the course, making sure that some of these holes don't end up taking people down really steep slopes and damaging the vegetation that way. One of the other things that we'll possibly be looking at is tread lightly. There's a lot of signage out there now about when you go to a site like this, you don't want to smash the bushes and you don't want to do anything that really disrupts it. So we're thinking about having some signage out there with tread lightly. Of course, the advocates have talked to us about work projects that could also move over to resource protection. But before we can even kind of get these things going, we need to do cultural clearances. That's one of the things that BLM is going to require of us is to do some cultural clearances of this particular site. It's in the programmatic agreement that the board approved a while back, and that's just one of those things you go through in the design process. We've got to do that. So with that, Greg also alluded to this too, is that if you do have 2 tournament courses at full build out, if we get there, you have 2 tournament courses. I think there's definitely some economic return that could come to the city with tournaments. Of course, the recreational benefit that it offers not only to our residents, but to the local area as well. So anyway, that's a quick overview of what we're proposing here today. We'd love to take any questions that you might have at this time. Thank you.
Supervisor Abel, go.
Vern, who's going to design the course and what's the cost of designing it?
Currently, right now, we have had a number of these disc golf course advocates that we have here in town have played a number of different courses. So we will be working with them to design it. So it'll be city staff working with them, and Bollinger will be involved from a natural resources perspective. So it would be something that we would try to draw on the expertise of all the different people who have played disc golf in the area and have been in different. We're not at this point looking at trying to hire a professional disc golf course designer. At this point, we think we can muddle through.
There's some experiments too.
Oh, yes, and some of these too. I mean, there's a couple of them, and I don't know if is. Oh, okay. Some of the folks actually do that we've been talking with do have some disc golf course design experience. Yes.
Vern, how long do you think the design portion of this would take, and would you anticipate that once the design is done, then this is going to come back to us for a final approval?
Typically, the way it works at this point is the design probably will take anywhere from 3 to 4 months just getting everybody together and walking the site. So we're probably talking 3 to 4 months to get that done. The land isn't coming to us probably for another 6 months out from the federal government. Typically, the way we do this, though, is that we're more than willing to bring it back. But the typical way this works is we take the design to the Parks and Recreation Commission for them to approve, and then we end up going to get a special use permit through the Planning Commission, is typically how that's done.
Do you anticipate that a maintenance plan will be part of that special use permit?
Very good question. What we would do before we would allow any construction to happen is we really want to see that club or that 501c3 in place, and that maintenance agreement would be in place with them before we sign the joint use, or sign the joint use agreement for use of the site. We want to make sure that that maintenance plan that is both the city can live with as well as the advocates can live with. But we want to make sure that that is out there to protect the resource as well as pick up trash.
Great, and I've played some of the courses in Washoe County, and they were built and never maintained, and now they're in horrible condition. So we want to make sure that we prevent that. Also, I'm very interested in moving forward with the project that gives the youth of our community something to do.
And we believe this will do that.
Vern, I played the one in Incline, and it's really nice up there. It's really, really nice. The federal government giving this land to us, we've never had control of it. We've never utilized this land in any shape or form, correct?
That is correct. The land is coming through us through the Bureau of Land Management. It is just, it has never had any other uses out there than what you see. It's a very natural and pristine site. There's a few roads that go through it. If you've been up there, there's a couple off-road. There's a power line road. There's a road that goes along the power line, and there are a few other roads that kind of work their way through there. But that's basically what it's been used for all these years, is just view shed and just natural open space.
Now, there is a difference between this and the golf courses who have set up the Frisbee. There's a distinct difference between these two, and it should not be in competition with the golf courses. Am I assuming that correctly?
I think you may be referring to foot golf.
Foot golf.
That at least 2 of the golf courses in town have.
They're coming up with the disc golf course too. They're going to come with it. This is what I heard. They're going to come with it. Would there be any competition This is two different environments.
Two different environments, but it has happened in other communities, but I wasn't aware it was happening here. There is foot golf at a couple of, right now, and at least two of the golf courses in town.
I didn't say it's going to happen. I said there was talk about it possibly happening. So, and I don't know if that's going to come through. There's no fees to play on this. Is that correct? No fees whatsoever.
It's not anticipated at this time to be charging anything. There might be an opportunity working with the clubs. We might have a, if you will, an Iron Ranger out there for donations if somebody wants to do that. But at this point, there's no plan at this time to charge.
Thank you.
Public comment? Carol, come on up.
Carol Howell, I guess right now I would be representing and be here as president of the Northern Sierra Ladies Gun Club because I have a question regarding this facility and the priority of this over the improvements that we've all been waiting for out at the gun and rifle range as far as restrooms and gates and that. Where does this come in that priority list? Because I was told there was no personnel available to manage the improvements, and now there's this coming up.
Go ahead, you can answer.
Let me take a stab at that. For the record, Roger Mullendorf, Parks and Recreation Director. We've been having ongoing discussions with you and your organization, as well as the other rifle and gun club in the city, about making improvements to the shooting range. We have some badly needed improvements there. One of them, of course, which I know you're most interested in, is some type of restroom complex there. We have been working with the Nevada Division of Wildlife, and there's some grant money available that we're looking at exploring in terms of making those type of improvements. One of the improvements we want to make at the shooting range, quite frankly, is we want to improve the security of the location before we put a restroom complex down there, because we've had issues in the past where we've had porta potties located there that were basically riddled with gunfire after we leave them there. So we want to work on the security of that site so that we can close it off at night and we don't have some of the undesirable activities happening down at the shooting range that are happening currently in the evening down there. But as far as priorities, I think it's probably safe to say that they're equal priorities. Both of them are funding challenged. We have an organization here that represented by the advocates of disc golf that are stepping forward with some sweat equity. We have a small amount of money budgeted out of the Quality of Life Fund to conduct the cultural clearances study, maybe some of the environmental studies that have to take place. As Vern mentioned, that's going to be required by BLM. But we are currently also working, as I mentioned, with the Nevada Wildlife Division in terms of trying to acquire some grants for future improvements at the shooting range as well.
So the priority
I guess my question,
equal is what I'm...
Really, yeah, they're pretty much on equal level in terms of priorities. One's not higher than the other. It's just a matter of timing in terms of available funding for the projects.
Okay.
Both of them been in the hopper for quite a while.
When are we going to get it out of the hopper?
Well, that's a good question. You know, we have to take a look at the grant cycle, and I think that the grant cycle is coming up in March for the shooting range, and that's kind of what we're gearing towards. But don't hold me to that. I will keep you informed on that.
All right. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Other public comment? Yes, sir. Come on.
Hi, my name is Paul Hansen, and I'm here to advocate the disc golf course. I actually helped design and build the one in Truckee at the regional park. So I've done it before. I've also been in contact, you were asking about a professional disc golf course builder. He's a professional disc golfer, and he's built 8 different courses around the area. He did the Bijou course, Zephyr Cove, Squaw Valley, Markleyville, and Tahoe Vista course as well the 2 courses in Truckee. I've been in contact with him. He's willing. There's no charge for his fee. He would come out and he said he'd be happy to help us design it. So that helps a little bit. So I've been playing for about 20 years, and like I said, I built the course in Truckee. The regional park was getting about 40 to 50 people. You know, there's a nature trail going through there, and it was kind of low key. And after we got the course completed, you know, we're averaging in the summertime 100, 150 players out there every day. It just exploded out there. A couple of you guys said you've played before. I've played all over the United States. There's courses everywhere, all different terrains, you know, so looking at this site, it's, you know, for what we have to work with, it'd be a good site for us, I think.
Very good. Thank you, Paul. Okay, other public comment? Anybody? Want to come up?
How you doing?
Pretty well.
Yeah, I brought some visual aids here. So, my name is Dale Martin. I'm an advocate, definitely, of this course, and I appreciate you taking consideration. And one thing that I really like about this is the youth activity. My daughter, she's in team sports, but this is something that I can do with her, and she loves it. One thing I've noticed in the past couple of years is more kids getting involved in this sport, and you can walk anywhere from 2 to 4 miles in 118 hole round. I did bring some visual aids here. If you want to look at what the discs actually look like and what they feel like, it's definitely different than the old whammos that you throw. These actually are designed differently. Each disc is designed different for the way you throw it. You can curve around the tree. It's just like a golf bag. You have drivers, you have mid-range, you have putters, and you can throw it in a different way to get a certain effect that you want. So there is more to the sport than just throwing a Frisbee. And yeah, I have 20 discs, and each one is different. If it's windy, I have a disc for when it's windy. So I am very, very grateful for actually having a disc golf course and availability. I work in Tahoe, and I play the Tahoe courses, but it is really nice, especially this time of year, to have something here where you can play in the wintertime. And we will have people come down from Tahoe just to play in Carson City. So I appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Very good. Thanks for having the exhibit here. Good. Other public comment? Anybody? Okay, we'll close off public comment, bring it to the board. I think, Vern, you answered my question when you were in your discussion with Supervisor Abad and also in your original discussion. So, board, what's your pleasure? Go.
I move to accept Parks and Recreation Commission's unanimous recommendation to set aside approximately 100 acres west of Flint Drive and Rifle Range Road as the location for a disc golf course complex.
Motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, board members.
Okay. Okay. So what happens if you get drones out there? Can you have drones carry your disc golf around? All right. All right. We're going to take up 11A, and there's a disclosure at the beginning. This is nominations to the Board of Equalization.
I'd like to make a disclosure pursuant to Ethics and Government Law, specifically NRS 281A.420, subsection 1. I have a personal relationship with Mallory Wilson, who is a nominee for appointment to the Carson City Board of Equalization. My relationship is such that a reasonable person in my situation would be materially affected by this relationship, and therefore, in accordance with NRS 281A.420, subsection 3, I will be abstaining from participating and voting on her appointment, but will participate and vote for other nominees.
All right. Mr. Dawley.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good afternoon, Dave.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon.
We're all saying it. We're on. You know what? We could all quit and go start again. You know. That's all right.
Absolutely. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As always, Nevada revised statute says that we need to come and appoint the boards or the members for the boards of equalization. On November 5th, I did send out letters to Supervisor Abad and Supervisor Bagwell, and I asked them for their new nominations or their appointees. Just hold on, I'm getting there. I actually forgot about you, Mr. Bonkowski. I forgot that Mrs. Bagwell was your appointee to the board, so it didn't dawn on me till a little later. You actually didn't receive a formal letter. I just emailed you and I called you. But I did receive written notification back that Bonnie Vivant will be Mr. Bonkowski's nominee and Mallory Wilson will be Mrs. Bagwell's nominee. And I also emailed you requesting to assign the chair for this particular Board of Equalization, and you nominated Jed Block to be the chairman again for this year.
And David, just for the record, my nominee is, or who is going to continue on the board is Jill Rausner.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I apologize for not mentioning that.
Okay. I don't know if we take public comment on this or not, but we might. Public comment?
Happy New Year to the board and
Happy New
to
Year.
everybody here.
Happy New Year.
I'd like to take, Lisa Helget, for the record, I'd like to take just a quick moment to congratulate Karen Abowd, Lori Bagwell, Sue Merriweather, and Jason Woodbury for their election wins. Congratulations, everybody. I do have a statement. With regards to agenda item number 11, the nomination of Mallory Wilson to the Board of Equalization by Supervisor Bagwell, I would like to call attention to NRS 361-340, subparagraph 4, which requires members of the Board of Supervisors to nominate persons who are sufficiently experienced in business generally to be able to bring knowledge and sound judgment to the deliberations of the Board of Equalization. I respectfully request that the DA office review this NRS prior to the vote to appoint Ms. Wilson, which will clearly show that Ms. Wilson does not meet the qualifications for this position, and also that the DA's office recommend that the mayor and the supervisors withdraw the nomination until such time as Ms. Wilson has gained sufficient aptitude, education, and experience necessary. I also request that the DA's office advise Supervisor Bonkowski to recuse himself, which you've already done, thank you, from voting to appoint Ms. Wilson, as she is his daughter, which is clearly a conflict of interest. Ms. Wilson only graduated high school in the last couple of years and has not acquired the experience necessary to provide the specified knowledge and sound judgment. Other than the training required to obtain her real estate license, which she acquired in January of 2014, she has no higher education which would qualify her for the Board of Equalization. Her limited employment history consists of only a few jobs, most recent as a real estate agent with Harcourt Realty, which began approximately 7 months ago. Review of her public Facebook page shows repeated lack of maturity in her comments, any experience related to tax issues, or any interest in politics, issues facing Carson City, or any desire to serve the citizens of Carson City. The Board of Equalization is not an advisory board. As you know, this board is responsible for determining equitable tax rates for properties, and Ms. Wilson has no experience in the tax field. She cannot provide the seasoned and well-reasoned judgment required to assess appeals. I ask that Ms. Wilson's nomination be withdrawn until such time as she had matured sufficiently and acquired the appropriate education and experience necessary for the Board of Equalization. Her appointment would clearly not be in the best interest of Carson City. Thank you.
Other comment? Public comment?
For the record, my name is Chris Carver, and I'd like to support what Lisa just said. As a taxpayer and property owner within the city of Carson City, I object to Ms. Wilson's appointment to this board. She is wholly unqualified under the NRS to adjudicate tax issues, and her nomination by Ms. Bagwell is inappropriate given the space that Ms. Bagwell is vacating, the vast amount of experience and knowledge that she possessed in that seat to be filled by somebody that just only recently graduated from high school and really has no experience at all in government, as far as I can tell, is just grossly inappropriate. And as Ms. Helga just said, it's clearly not in the best interest of the city. I appreciate that she wants to serve her city, and I think that's remarkable for a person of her age. But at this point, she lacks the education and knowledge and experience to deal with the issues that will be before the board. And additionally, she will be repeatedly forcing a conflict of interest on the board when we have the issues that this board or this committee addresses come before the board again, and then Mr. Wankowski has to recuse himself on a decision that his daughter made. So that's all I have to say about that.
Other public comment?
Thank you.
Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the board here. Board comments, anybody? Okay, we'll entertain a motion. I think you got to go one by one.
Yeah, we need to make separate motions.
Okay, so we need to go one by one. First of all, I want to approve the nomination and appointment of Jed Block as the chairman of the committee for the Board of Equalization.
There's a motion, a couple seconds on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Okay. Want to make another motion?
Then I want to make a motion to approve the appointment of Bonnie Vivant as a member to the Carson City Board of Equalization, and to confirm the designation, to the Board of Equalization per NRS 361.340.
Second.
Motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Okay.
Do you want me to make this?
Move.
Okay. I'd like to make the motion to appoint Mallory Wilson to the Board of Equalization.
Is there a second? On the motion, discussion?
Yes.
Discussion's in order?
Yeah. The points that were brought up are, it does draw some attention and concern. What I'm relying on is Ms. Bagwell's made this nomination, and I'm relying on her instinct to determine the qualifications of Ms. Wilson. In that respect, I'll be voting in favor of her because Ms. Bagwell nominated her to begin with, and I believe she has thoroughly investigated her and feels confident in her nomination. So in that respect, I would be voting in favor of her.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Okay. One abstention. Carried 4 with 1 abstention. All right. Let's move on to the next issue. Dave, 11B.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may just mention one other thing. Any appeal to the County Board of Equalization that is aggrieved does not come back to you. It goes to the State Board of Equalization, which is made up of taxpayers and representatives throughout the state. So.
Sorry, Mayor, you didn't call on me. Can I ask you a question? How many appeals you usually go through in a year? Do you have a rough idea of how many appeals go to the...
We had 60 appeals last year, and of those, we probably heard about 25. The other withdrew. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the board, good afternoon again. I apologize. I've been under the weather for a while.
You want me to help you that this is a potential revision to increase the taxes because of an error to by $164.61 per year for parcel number 007544313 at 1445 Turner Court.
Thank you.
Any other difficulties with this one?
No. Nevada Revised Statute 361.765 states that any corrections that are clerical errors are brought to the Board of Supervisors, and so that's why we're bringing this to you.
Okay. Supervisor Bunkowski.
And just one question for you, Dave. This one is a little different than what we normally see, which is a reduction in the tax.
Yes.
This is an increase in the tax. Have you had a conversation with the property owner, and have they had any objections to or hardship in paying the tax? They're aware that this is coming, and they don't have an issue with it?
We have not we've not talked to them verbally. We have sent them mail letting them know that it was going to be heard today.
Okay.
And typically what happens in situations like this, if there's an error, then we work with the treasurer's office, and they work with the taxpayer, and they won't put a penalty on it this year. because it was an error that we made. And so we work with them.
All right, thank you.
Public comment? Hearing none. Board motion's in order.
I'll make the motion. I move to approve the correction increasing the taxes for the 2014-15 fiscal years for parcel number 007-54313, 1445 Turner Court, per NRS 361.765, in the amount of $164.61.
Motion by Supervisor Rayboud, second by Supervisor Bonkowski on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Okay, let's take up item 11C. And Dave, I know you're here. This is an item to increase the taxes for parcel number 004-34109-681 Linda K. Court, also pursuant to NRS 361.765, in the amount of $306.92. And the increase is, the reevaluation is being done because of an error in the land value for the 2014-2015 fiscal year. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. What happens is we left a zero out. So the neighboring properties, the land values were set at $34,000. This particular one the land value was set at $3,400. And so we're just trying to equalize it with everybody else.
Interesting error. I got you.
Well, we reevaluate.
Right.
It looked good for a minute.
Looked good for a minute. It's like getting your bank statement. You got $1 million in there, and really it's only supposed to be $1. That's all right.
We revalue all land on an annual basis, so that's 20,000 parcels. And so we run reports to try and catch errors like this, but sometimes they do slip through.
And the same question Supervisor Bonkowski had on the prior one. Have you talked to the taxpayer?
Yes, we actually sent them the same letter notifying them of this meeting, and we'll definitely be working with them.
Okay, all right. Discussion, public? Anybody? No? On the motion, is there a motion?
I move to approve the correction increasing the taxes for the 2014-2015 fiscal years for parcel number 004-341-09, 681 Linda K. Court, per NRS 361.765, in the amount of $306.92.
Motion by Supervisor Bonkowski, second by Supervisor Rayboud on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thanks, Dave. Get
Thank
well.
you, sir.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, let's take up item 12. This is what we do monthly to accept a report on the condition of each fund in the Treasury. Oh, Nick, you're here. I thought somehow I thought you were still on vacation.
No, sir. I
Okay.
haven't been on vacation. I've been here the
Well,
whole
you know
time.
what? I must just think you're on vacation all the time.
That's right. I just kind of blend in, I
Kind of
guess.
blend in. All right. All right. Anybody have any questions on the monthly report that we get? Go. We have a question.
Nick, infrastructure tax, that's the deposit of the bond proceeds?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Public, any discussion? Board, you okay, everybody?
I move to accept the report on the condition of each fund in the Treasury and the statement of receipts and expenditures through December 23rd, 2014, per NRS 251.030 and NRS 354.290.
Motion by Supervisor Bonkowski, second by a couple seconds. On the motion, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. We'll now take up the issue of a grant from the state of Nevada. Chief.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
Good.
You got it right.
Stacy Giommi, Fire Chief. Welcome to Supervisor Bagwell, and congratulations to Karen About and to our new district attorney. Welcome. And to Sue. Perhaps the biggest shoes to fill, or the smallest shoes to fill, as the case may be. But it's very odd not seeing Alan here, but I know you'll fill it admirably.
And it's probably on point but off point since you're saying that. I'll be at your retirement ceremony.
Great. Thank you, sir. So I'm here to ask for the board to approve the acceptance of a State of Nevada grant. This is for the development of a hazard mitigation plan. In May of this year, I came to the board to seek approval to submit the grant. You granted that permission. We submitted the grant, and we were successful in obtaining the grant. In total, it's $141,353, requiring a 25% match. That amount that we'll have to match is $35,338.25. All of that is in the documentation submitted to you. Our hazard mitigation plan is required by the federal government for the purpose of shedding light on mitigation plans and efforts around the city. It is a requirement if we get, for us to get any disaster mitigation funds, any Fire Act grants. Those are grants that deal with wildland fires, fire management assistant grants. So if we don't have a current plan, then we're not eligible for those funds. And we've taken serious advantage of those funds from the federal government in years past, post-disaster funds most notably. So I'm available for any questions you might have.
Board comments or questions? Got a couple down here, Supervisor Shirk, then Supervisor Bagwell if you want to go.
Stacy, thank you for answering my questions earlier. I do
Sure.
appreciate it. I just wanted to touch base on, in 2011, you had completed this plan on yourself. Is that possible this year as well?
No, it's not possible. We have less staff than we had then, and it was a major staff effort. Plus with the turnover in our department at my position and at a support position that we have that's been vacated and refilled, I don't believe the experience is there to do it internally.
May I address a question to Nick, the finance? I know I emailed you as well. I'll wait for you to get to the podium. And I was looking for your recommendation. It was said on the motion that would be coming out of the, correct me if I'm wrong, the funding source would be coming from the contingency of the fund balance, and I asked for your recommendation where those funds should come from, and could you tell us that recommendation?
Sure. For the record, Nick Providenti, Finance Director. Basically, there's about $545,000 available currently in the contingency. We originally budgeted about $650,000, and the board has appropriated or recommended appropriation for $30,000 for the fair and a little under $75,000 for the NNDA. We'll be bringing these back the next board meeting as part of our budget augmentation. So I would recommend that, if you wanted to go ahead and approve this, that we would take it out of the contingency fund. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you, Nick.
For the board, to Lori, go. Oh, Brad.
Nick, before you go, just to follow up on what Jim asked, the reason it needs to come out of contingency is just a timing issue, right? Because we don't have the ability, we need to submit paperwork on the grant prior to being able to budget this into the 2015-2016 budget.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it's just a timing issue.
It's just a timing. I believe so. I mean, I'm not exactly sure when you're planning on.
Well, right away. But I mean, I can speak to part of that. I mean, in one of the questions that Supervisor Shirk asked me in an email was, why didn't we budget this? And there's a myriad of reasons. One, we don't know that we're going to get the grant. Two, at the time we're developing a budget, we don't know what the grant parameters are going to be and what the grant requirements are going to be and how much match is going to be required. So this will be the third hazard mitigation plan that we've done. The first one they paid 100% on. The second one they paid 80% on. We were not successful in obtaining the grant the second time around. So we did it ourselves. So this time, as the grant guidance came out, it was a 75-25 match. And so that's the reason it isn't directly in the budget.
Stacy, this is money well spent, as you pointed out, because we don't qualify for wildland fire relief and things of that nature if, in fact, we don't have this plan in place.
Right. Flood relief, earthquake relief, any kind of disaster mitigation funds. And actually, we've used probably more funds on flood relief than we have on fire relief. But both are very important.
Anything further? Public comment? Seeing none. Motion's ordered.
I move to authorize the mayor to sign and accept a grant from the State of Nevada Department of Public Safety, Division of Emergency Management, for the purpose of updating the Carson City Hazard Mitigation Plan, project number PDMC PL09NB2014-005.
Motion in a couple seconds on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Supervisor or City Manager?
No, I was waiting till you got to item 14, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll hit item 14 now.
Okay, we're going to pull this item at this time in discussion with the Public Works Director. We still have some consultation work that we need to do with the BLM. I would expect to bring this back to you a month from now. So we're going to pull item 14. My apologies for not doing it right up front. but we'll probably have this back in a month.
Okay. We're going to take up item 15, then we'll take a short break and then the call of redevelopment. We'll start the next meeting. So we're on Horse Creek Ranch. Ms. Bollinger, you want to take us through this? Everything in order up there? It always looks gorgeous. Come on.
Everything certainly is gorgeous. For the record, Ann Bollinger, Open Space Administrator. The report in front of you is somewhat routine. Each year since we've signed the Horse Creek conservation easement, we are required to conduct an annual monitoring visit, and this report provides in detail some of the prohibited uses, and so we document those on paper, provide a report to the landowner, and sign off, and everything is good to continue until the following year.
And a couple of questions, and this relates to invasive weeds and the bull thistle and all of that. How do you plan going forward to address that issue? Because it's going to get worse, not better.
Exactly. And so the date that we conducted this monitoring report, which was July 2013, the landowner was digging bull thistle during our visit. And bull thistle is one of those plants that, yes, you can dig. And at another visit, myself and the lady Margie Evans with the Carson City Weed Coalition and one of our volunteers also assisted the landowner. This year, we conducted the monitoring report visit, I think in October, and we did see a reduction. So just by using non-chemical methods, you can use chemical, but we would prefer not to on a weed species that you can just dig by hand. If we can keep on top of that, we will see a reduction.
And the other question I have, this seems like it would be a perfect Boy Scout, Eagle Scout type of endeavor. Can you engage with those groups to lend a hand?
We certainly can, and the landowner is more than open to having any scout troops up there. From what I understand with Eagle Scouts, though, the Eagle Scouts are usually supposed to conduct a project that is a benefit to the community. So when we've proposed this project to Eagle Scouts, they kind of give us that word of caution. But for some of the younger Scouts, we can certainly have them up to this project, to this property.
Anything else? Public comment? Anybody want to weigh in? Don't see any board. We ready to accept the report?
Can do that. I move to accept the 2013 monitoring report for the Horse Creek Ranch Conservation Easement as recommended by the Open Space Advisory Committee.
Motion, Supervisor About, or Supervisor Bonkowski, second by Supervisor About on the motion. I guess a second by Supervisor Shirk as well. On the motion, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you very much, Ann. Okay, Karen, can we take a short break? Well, if we recess, we take a short break, maybe 5 minutes, and you call us back to order? Okay. Board's in recess until a call of redevelopment.
I'm going to reconvene the board as the Redevelopment Authority and let the record reflect that we have a quorum. And open up to public comment initially. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, move on to item 19. And City Manager, will you take us through this?
Yes, ma'am. This is for the Redevelopment Authority to select from amongst yourselves a chair that will go through the remaining term of your office.
I have a technical question before we get on to 19A. We received in our as late material the minutes of the Redevelopment Authority for November 20th, but they're not on the agenda. So do we need to push approval of those minutes onto the next meeting of the authority, or can we do it today?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to push that one to the next meeting of the Redevelopment Authority.
So can we just make a note then that we need to have these meetings back for the next meeting? Minutes.
The minutes.
Minutes of this meeting for the next meeting? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, seeing none. I guess we're open to appointment.
I nominate Supervisor Abowd as the chair of the Redevelopment Authority.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Discussion. Is there any discussion?
Technically, nominations don't require a second, but that's all.
All right. We have a motion and a second. No discussion. All those in favor?
No, aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion passes. Let's move on to the vice chair. And I'd like to nominate Brad Bonkowski as vice chair.
Yeah, nominations don't require a second. They could just, by Robert's rules, you can nominate yourself under Robert's rules.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Now I'm going to open up to public comment one more time. Okay. Excuse me. All right, the next agenda item is 19B, excuse me, and that's to appoint a member of the Redevelopment Authority to the Redevelopment Citizens Committee, and for a 3-year term expiring January 2018.
I nominate myself.
We have one nomination for Jim.
And I move to appoint Lori Bagwell.
Okay. We have Jim and we have Lori nominated, so we'll take them one at a time and see where that goes.
No, I'll withdraw.
Okay.
I'll let Lori have it.
All right. Okay. All those in favor?
Just if we could discuss first,
Sure.
just as a point of clarification, the reason I nominated Lori is because she was the chair and she's
Yeah.
eminently familiar with the committee.
Okay.
Just to be clear, I nominated myself because I thought I'd do a good job.
Okay.
But you didn't have to withdraw yourself.
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Lori is the Redevelopment Citizens Committee. Okay, now, one final public comment session. Seeing none, I move to adjourn as the Redevelopment Authority and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors.
Call a meeting of the Board of Supervisors back to order, and we're going to take up item number 23A. This is appointment of boards of supervisors to various boards, committees of the commission, and we're going to go seriatim through each appointment, and we'll be using Robert's Rules of Order to do that. And we just would use Robert's Rules of Orders when you're under the Redevelopment Authority. So now we'll take up the issue of mayor, because I'm just doing this little thing here that the city manager handed out. So he says to make sure that we put him, for mayor pro tem, I would suggest that Supervisor Abowd remain mayor pro tem.
Is that a motion?
There's a motion. There's a nomination. Any other nominations?
If I may, Mayor, I had my light on, and
I'm sorry.
I understand your point of view of nominating Karen About, but I would also like to point out, just as James, the judge this morning at the swearing-in ceremony, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, James Hartstead? Yes, he recommended, or he's becoming the mayor pro tem per se of the judges. And it's what he recommends in this article in the Nevada Appeal is that these positions should be filled on a rotating basis, not just one person for 2 years. In other words, what I suggest that this board should look at, because I think we're all elected officials, I think we're all capable of being mayor pro tem, and I think we all should share in that responsibility and the prestigious aspects of that position. And what I recommend is that Ms. Bout already served 2 years. I think Lori just got aboard. I think we're looking at Brad and myself to serve 1-year terms on a rotating basis. After our term, it would come back, Lori would serve, then it'd go back to Karen. It should be on a rotating basis year after year. That's my recommendation. And at this juncture, I would recommend that Brad be mayor pro tem on a 1-year basis, rotating per ward on a yearly basis, so everybody gets to help serve this community on a rotating basis equally. That's my recommendation.
Okay, that's a nomination. Okay, any other nominations? All right, then we're going to take up the issue. We're going to do it on block. Everybody who's in favor of Supervisor Aboud, say yes. Then we're going to, everybody who's in favor of Supervisor Bankowski, say yes, and we'll see who wins and go forward. So, all in favor of Supervisor Aboud? Aye.
Aye.
So we got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Brad said aye.
Brad said aye.
He doesn't, okay.
All right. All in favor of Supervisor Bankowski?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Supervisor Aboud prevails on that one. All right, did you get that, Nick? If I go too fast, you let me know.
Excuse me, how long was the term? Just 1 year?
It's 2 years.
2-year term.
It's 2 years.
Yeah.
And the vote was 4-1, correct?
Correct. All right, on the Sub-Conservancy District, Carson Water Sub-Conservancy, this is, let me make sure where I am on this. This is to fill an unexpired term ending December 31st, 2016.
John's term?
Yes.
Because we got two here. One is for Karen's term has ended, and John's term ended with Lori's election. So we'll take up the one that ends in 2018. Nominations are in order.
I nominate Karen Aboud.
Any other nomination? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Okay, we'll now take up Sub-Conservancy District, the term ending 2016.
I nominate Brad Bankowski.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay.
4-1. If you didn't, okay. If anybody wants me to revote, you let me know. Okay. Carson City Visitors Bureau, this is a 4-year term, and this one is, this is coterminous with the office. Okay, so nominations are are in order for position on the Carson City Convention and Visitors Bureau. Anybody want to do this?
What's the term?
It's coterminous.
Coterminous with term of office. I serve on that.
Do we need 2 people?
We don't. We only need one
So I
person.
don't know that we need to appoint.
I don't
them.
need to appoint.
You
since
have
I'm
to
still
because
on
she's
the
in a
board.
new term. She's in a new
Her
term.
term ended.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to continue?
Yeah.
I nominate Karen Aboud.
Any other nominations? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, we'll now go to RTC. This is for a term ending in 2016.
I'll nominate myself because I doubt anybody else will.
Any other nominations?
I nominate Mayor Kroll.
Any other nominations?
I nominate myself.
Okay, so all in favor?
Well, excuse me.
There's 2
Which,
terms.
this is the wrong term.
This is the wrong term.
Okay,
I
so
don't-
I withdraw my nomination for
This
this
is
one.
for the term ending 2016. Okay, so between Supervisor Shirk and me, all in favor of Supervisor Shirk, say aye.
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 All in favor of Mayor Kroll?
Aye.
I vote aye. Okay. I'll take that on the RTC. Now we'll take up the item of That was 3-2, by the way, Kathy. On the RTC, term ending 2015, second one on the RTC. Nominations in order.
I nominate Brad Bonkowski.
I nominate Jim Shirk.
Okay, on the motion, any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor of Brad Bonkowski, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
All, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you did
Then,
wrong.
then, all in favor of Supervisor Shirk?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Supervisor Bonkowski prevails on a vote of 4-1. Okay. Adriana, if I'm going too fast or you see me screwing up here, that's what lawyers are for.
I'm trying to keep up.
All right, all right. All right, Debt Management Commission, term ends 2017.
I nominate Brad Bonkowski. He's been on it.
Any other nominations?
I nominate Jim Shirk again.
Okay, so we have any other nominations? There are 2 nominations. All in favor of Supervisor Bonkowski?
Aye.
So all in favor of Supervisor Shirk?
Aye.
Okay, Supervisor Bonkowski prevails on the Debt Management Commission.
Mr. Mayor, you have the Parks and Rec Commission that you skipped over.
I skipped over Parks and Rec, okay? Thank you very much.
And if you could just say again the vote on that last one.
4-1.
4-1, thank you.
Thank you, sorry. Okay, we'll take up Parks and Rec for term ending 2015, the end of this year.
I nominate Lori Bagwell.
Nomination for Ms. Bagwell, okay?
I nominate Jim Shirk. Let's see how many strikeouts I can get.
Okay, all in favor of any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor of Supervisor Bagwell? Aye.
Aye.
All in favor of Supervisor Shirk?
Aye.
Aye.
Supervisor Bagwell prevails 3-2. Audit Committee?
I nominate Lori Bagwell.
I nominate Jim Shirk.
All in favor, any other nominations? Anybody, all in favor of Supervisor Bagwell, say aye.
Aye.
Those in favor of Supervisor Shirk, say aye.
Aye.
Supervisor Bagwell prevails 4-1. Cultural Commission.
I nominate Karen Abab.
Any other nominations?
I nominate Jim Shirk.
Any other nominations? On the motion, on the nominations are closed. All those in favor of Supervisor Abad, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, excuse me, all in favor of Supervisor Shirk?
Aye.
Supervisor Abad prevails 4-1. Carson City Municipal Golf Course Corporation, term ending 2016. Nominations are now open.
I nominate Jim Shirk.
I decline.
Supervisor Shirk declines. Any other nominations?
I'll do it if no one else wants it.
Any other nominations? All in favor of Supervisor Bagwell sitting on the Carson City Municipal Golf Course Corporation as our representative, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Prevails 4-1. NACO 2015.
I do have a question on this. How come there's an alternate now? Is that something new, or did I miss that?
Man, I don't know. It's a good question. I would
And
have liked
also
it.
on this, on the NACO, I did submit late material when I was nominated for this, and I won that post years ago. I came to the mayor and I expressed my regret that I had to resign from this position due to the fact that I had a job that provided health insurance for my family, which was more important to me. I relayed that to the mayor, and I apologize for resigning from that position, but no one ever told me when they met and what time they met, and it interfered with that part-time job that allowed me health insurance from my family, and my family comes first. I would do it again today as I would tomorrow. That's why I resigned from that position. But we're still back to why is there an alternate?
As I see on here, an alternate is optional to do if we want to do an optional one as an alternate in case. NACO meets on Fridays. They're usually all-day meetings, and they also meet not just in Carson City frequently, but they meet throughout the state. And this last time, you know, not that it's going to happen again, but this last time there was the issue of the public lands meeting that also happened. They can be very long meetings. So I don't mind doing it again, but I'm open to have anybody else that wants to step in there too. So
I nominate Mayor Kroll to be on this committee.
Okay, any other nominations? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, I'll do it. All right.
I'll do alternate.
I nominate Lori Bagwell as the alternate.
Any other nominations? All in favor of Supervisor Bagwell being the alternate to NACO?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? Everybody, that was unanimous there, right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. Western Nevada Legislative Coalition, 2015.
I nominate Mayor Kroll.
Any other nominations?
I nominate Jim Shirk.
Any other nominations?
And I nominate, don't you have to have two for this position?
Yeah, we'll do another one. We'll do.
And I nominate Brad Bonkowski.
I think it's easier if we pick up one first, so that we can get a majority on a vote. That way we don't have to go, I mean, we can do either one, but, okay. So on the first one.
Then I'll withdraw the first one, and we'll go with yours.
All right. On Western Nevada Legislative Coalition, there are two names in nomination, Kroll and Shirk. All in favor of Shirk, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor of Kroll, say aye.
Aye.
Kroll gets has to go there 4-1, okay? Next,
Now I nominate Brad Bonkowski.
Any other nominations?
Yeah, last chance. I'm 0 for what, 17?
No.
Last chance, 0 for 17. No nomination, no votes. I vote my name in again for the last thing on here.
Okay. There are two nominations. Any other nominations? All in favor of Supervisor Bonkowski, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor of Supervisor Shirk, say aye.
Aye.
Supervisor Bonkowski prevails 3-2. Okay. NNDA, do we have to appoint someone to that one?
TRPA.
Oh, TRPA, Supervisor Abowden, or Supervisor Aldine. Ex-Supervisor Aldine. She has notified to me that she'd like to continue to serve if that meets with the pleasure of the board. Nominations are now open. I'll nominate former Supervisor Aldine. Sorry, old habits die badly with me, so slowly, I guess is the better word, slowly. Any other nominations? None. All in favor of former Supervisor Aldine? Oh, lights on?
No.
All in favor of Supervisor Aldine, former Supervisor Aldine, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Okay, somebody let Shelley know. Jim?
I do have one question, Mayor.
Questions up.
On the page that was submitted, it does have under Supervisor Bronkowski's slot, Northern Nevada Development Authority. I don't know what that's doing in there. So is that a mistake or on the agenda item?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a formal, here's what I think is happening, and Nick, you correct me if I'm wrong, or somebody can correct me. We have an unofficial board appointee to NNDA who's kind of is a board representative on NNDA, that's what it is, but it's not a formalized position in terms of either a board policy or a board resolution or a statute or a code. It's my understanding of it. So the question is, does the board want to refill that position, not refill it? It's up to you guys. I mean, what?
I'm willing to continue.
Okay, so, all right.
So I think there's a big conflict of interest here with Brad serving as the liaison between the board and NNDA when they work exclusively. His company works exclusively with NNDA. I just don't think it's right. I think there's a conflict of interest here.
Okay.
Actually, 2 years ago, when I was elected as supervisor, I resigned from the real estate committee at NNDA, and I only sit on the board now.
But your company, NAI, you're a principal owner on it, and they do a lot of dealings with NNDA. I'm sorry?
Yes, they do.
Okay, I think that, again, that's a conflict of interest.
How so? There's no compensation.
You can look at it however you want to and say there's no compensation, I don't make any money, but you oversee, you're a principal owner of NAI who does a lot of business with NNDA. I think it's a conflict of interest. You may not.
Okay, well,
I do.
We won't get into too much of a debate here. We'll just have some comments and see where it goes here. Do you want to comment or you want to? Okay. Because my understanding of NNDA, look, I get what's happening here, but maybe I don't. But you know, NNDA to me is a community benefit organization that brings business here, and its members are rather discouraged from taking advantage of what information they get, is my understanding. At least that's what it was when I was on there. I mean, I've been on it for a long time as a lawyer, and I always they told just stay out of it. So, all right, but that's me. So go shoot.
Just a question of formality here. I didn't see that NNDA was actually agendized to be. Oops, I did the wrong one. I didn't see that NNDA was actually agendized as an item for us to discuss for appointment today. So, well, it's on that, but not on the movements for appointments. And so I'm just wondering if we don't really, since it's not one that you said is by regulation or ordinance or anything else, should we even be taking action on NNDA today?
If I could, Mayor. I would agree with Supervisor Bagwell. Even though we do have the matrix that has that, it's empty, and there isn't a particular item for that specific vote. So I would advise that you would put this on another agenda.
Funny thing, that's why I didn't bring it up the first time. See how I took advantage of that? Nice doing to me. Okay, all right.
Bob, do we have to vote for Nevada Works?
Yes.
I currently serve on that now.
But
so.
I don't know if Nevada Works is on here either, so.
It's not proper.
Okay, well, let's put on NNDA Nevada Works. I think, check Nevada Works, though, will you? I think that, I don't know what the terms are on that one.
Okay, we'll check it out.
All right. All right, anything else on this item?
Yeah, there's definitely.
Oh, where am I then? I don't,
Although that is done.
that's it.
That's it.
Jim's on,
So
that's it.
Jim stays on that.
Jim's still on the airport, yeah.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, we do have somebody in the audience that wants to do a public comment on this item.
Public comment on which one?
On all of them?
Come on. I would.
Carol Howell, now as a resident. I want you all to know, as a resident of this city, sitting back here and watching that procedure that just took place was embarrassing. It looked like a backroom shuffle. I have a representative. I'm in his Ward 4. Of all of those committees, Jim wasn't assigned to one of them. Now, he's my representative, but I don't care if it were Karen or Brad or Lori. You all have a set amount of committees to disperse and represent this city and its residents on those committees. And why those aren't evenly split in another fashion than what you guys all just did, I'd like you all to reconsider this process, because it really looks tainted. It really is not in the best interest of this city and the residents, and especially the residents of Ward 4, not to have representatives on one or two or three of these committees, and others of you to have 3 or 4 committees. This doesn't make sense to me, and I'd ask you all to take another look at that.
Go.
Carol? I'd actually like to comment that we may be bringing that up under future agenda items, because
all right,
to get that as a policy for the future. So I'll, just to let you know, I'll reserve my comment till item 24.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. We'll now take up item 20.
Excuse me, there's another public comment.
Sure.
For the record, Fred Volz, I'd like to suggest a method improvement to this whole committee process that I haven't heard so far. And that is, why do we have the individual supervisors sitting on all these boards, committees, and commissions? It would seem as though we have competent staff in the city who have subject matter expertise on all the subjects that are being covered by these boards. You appoint citizens to the boards to work in collaboration with the staff to come back to you with recommendations for spending money, policies, what have you. Why couldn't those people do that job and bring to you what recommendations they have for you to then consider one way or another? The time that you would save by not attending all these meetings could certainly be used to come up with an action plan for how we're going to build a $150 million new sewer plant, which we really haven't been talking about. Despite the increases in the water and the sewer rates, there's been nothing said, nothing done to try and figure out that problem. Thank you.
Let me just say, you may not get an argument out of me on some of these things, but there's a statute that, you know, a lot of these, matter of fact, everything we went through is either done by an ordinance or by a state law, which precludes the delegation of the appointment to a staff member. But, you know, it's like NACO, that's a requirement, I think, of state law. But you know, in terms of, it wouldn't hurt my feelings to have state law change or ordinance change to say, you know what, you can appoint a staff member. It doesn't hurt my feelings to do that. So.
And Fred, just to comment, in the last 4 years, we changed the procedure. It used to be that a supervisor could be a chairman of a committee, and we changed that purposely because I don't feel that that's proper.
May I make one more comment?
Sure.
For the record, Fred Volz again, I would suggest then, if that is a prudent course to take, and there is some restriction in NRS NAC, that since we're talking later in the agenda today about legislative action and who's going to do what, why then shouldn't Carson City, with the legislature just down the street, propose to the legislature that that be changed in the interest of good government?
One, I think that, you know, it's not the idea is not a bad one. Don't get me wrong. But when you talk about, and Carson City could certainly, I want to look at the statute on NACO, Fred, but I think that you could certainly try that. But with NACO, there's 16 other counties that are out there that may have a different viewpoint. So, you know, that's just a complication that occurs. And the others, I'm not certain what others are statutory. RTC statutory. You know, you can do that, but that affects every county that's got a regional transportation commission as well. And the water service, same thing. So, you know, I appreciate your comment. It's just not as easy as it sounds to do that. But.
Right, but the logical point to be made to whomever is, whether it's the counties or the legislature, is that an effective use of the supervisor's time in each county if they don't have the subject matter expertise to really add to the discussion? Isn't it better to have the citizens on one side, the staff on the other, hammer out what they believe is the right policy on any of these boards, commissions, or committees, and then come back to you for your decision on what you're going to do or not do?
Yeah. If I might add, just a comment. We are a citizen government, and you have 63 legislators who are lay people. I would just leave that with you. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Any other public comments? But thank you, Fred. Carl.
Members of the board, Your Honor, Carl Nienhammer, resident of Carson City for 25 years. I think there should be some clarification here because if you remember right, I came before the board and with former city manager Larry Werner, we revised the boards and commissions. The state of Nevada is what we call a Dillon state. It is the Dillon law, in which the state has authority over municipalities. And with the stroke of a pen, if they so wanted to, they could get rid of Carson City in a heartbeat. I don't see that happening. But the Dillon rule is, I believe, is now in 30 states, if I'm not mistaken. The reason I'm speaking up is I understand Mr. Volz and Ms. Howell's opinion, but these boards and commissions, those certain boards and commissions, you have no authority over. They are mandated by the Dillon rule and by the state of Nevada that you represent those boards and commissions. When you have citizen commissions and citizens who sit on boards and commissions, still, you are the executive body. You can appoint or not appoint anybody to those commissions. We did change the rules in regards to time spent on a board and a commission, 12 years. My point being is, I believe, and it's a minefield, I understand that. But I would like to go ahead just for clarification. The Dillon Rule and the state has the authority to impose on any member of this board that they establish boards and commissions, and you must establish those boards and commissions, and you have no authority over that whatsoever. And I would seek counsel to say as to whether or not I am right or wrong on this, but this is not the discussion as to whether or not I'm going to change the law. If a citizen believes that the Dillon Rule should be overturned, which will not happen, but understand as to why these boards and commissions have been established. Certain boards and commissions are mandated by this board to establish. Other boards and commissions, as the executive branch of government, you may create. Let me give an example. I think the Cultural Commission was established by this board. You have citizens that you've appointed to that board. So let's get our facts straight. There are certain things that are imposed on you and on the citizens of Nevada by the state legislature under the Dillon Rule. And if a citizen wants to challenge that, then as a citizen activist, they can approach the board. And I thank the board for its time.
Other public comment? Okay, are we ready to move to the next item? Let's take up the legislative issues. There's a revised document that's out, late material as of today. I don't know if everybody's seen it.
Yeah, if I could,
Nick,
Mr. Mayor, I'll give a quick background on that. We pulled our previous session's legislative policy. I had the former chief deputy district attorney, before he retired, go through it. The base document that was originally submitted as part of the agenda reflected his edits. He's now retired. District Attorney Woodbury has gone through that document. He made additional edits to it. They are the ones, and those edits are the ones that are reflected in the document that's marked as late material that's in front of you now. That is the resolution that I have put forward for your consideration. So it's the one that's marked late materials. We also have hard copies available, I believe, in the rear of this room for anyone who didn't get a copy of that.
Okay, we're going to take board comments. Well, let's take public comment first. Anybody on the public? Mr. Kittis, good afternoon.
Bruce Kittis, speaking as a resident representing myself. Thank you for making some changes in the resolution. As I read this, this is a policy. It's not binding. I don't know what harm could come to somebody that was deemed to have not followed it exactly. I question, on 8IA, see, I think this resolution will beget more resolutions. Page 25. Isn't it B?
Oh, B. B.
B, like boy.
Right.
I, A.
Okay.
I think it's, I understand it's a good idea having the city manager as a coordinator. I didn't read anything here about, you've talked about NACO. Doesn't the board agree or not agree with certain NACO positions? Does the manager, is he going to coordinate what the city board of supervisor wants from NACO? I don't see anything here about that.
And NACO, if I just may say, because I've been on the NACO board for a while and I watched it, Bruce, is that, you know, the NACO board has its own board, its own jurisdictional underpinnings, and the city is perfectly willing, able, if they don't like or legislative action that the NACO's taking, it's just like any other proponent of legislation, they can oppose that.
Okay, that's good. I don't see, I guess the part that really pops out here is the capacity as an elected official. Does elected official in this paragraph, does that mean our sheriff, the treasurer, our district attorney, if they testify, and of course we're speaking in the abstract because I don't even know, I mean, we don't even know what issues we're discussing, but can this board, can you have a policy that says to the other elected officials that they shall not communicate a minority position? I mean, to me, I think you've advertised. If I was on one of the committees, I would simply say to Ms. Walker or the city manager, wink, is this unanimous? Tell us what, it's silly. You're trying to control speech, and you may get the opposite reaction. So
we can answer that question because I think that the way this is drafted right now, that we have today, and I think hopefully you've got that in front of you, is that you'll see that B1, A1 specifically provides an exception for someone who wants to express their own independent viewpoint. The idea is that once there has been a determination by the people who are elected to make those determinations about what a city position is, that's the city position. And I think, Bruce, you know, that makes sense to me. What I think, you know, if you go too far down the road on well, let me just say it like this, is that the legislature, one way or the other, likes to deal in local affairs. I think that's a pretty fair statement.
I believe you're a proponent of home rule.
I'm a proponent of home rule. I am. But, you know, and I think that what happens is that we want to be careful that what happens is that we make the decisions at the local level, and those are the decisions that our community has said, you know, we've put a structure in place to make those decisions. We make those decisions, but let's not let go to the legislature and say, okay, we're going to overrule what that was said without having, you know, knowing that the city had already made that decision. So that's what's going on here.
I understand.
Okay.
And you want to speak with one voice. I just think it's going to be difficult because I think one assemblyman will say to P.K. O'Neill, what gives? I read about it in the paper that it was 3-2 or something. I don't know. But I think the best thing that comes out of this that I hope you can do, at least from the start, we understand that your position for or against can change. We've watched what happens in the legislature as they move a bill. This one gets killed, and then it shows up over here, and it's on Sunday afternoon on the last day. We understand all that. But at least at the beginning, it would be very helpful to know what bills or what things the board is for or against, at least at the start of the session. And that some of us that do go to the legislature and speak on issues, I've spoke on issues that the board really didn't care about. The board didn't care about wind turbines in residential neighborhood, so we did that on our own. The board didn't care about what the definition of a single-family home is. We did that on our own in your absence because you didn't want to lobby for it. And every time I read the definition of a single-family house, read it in our code. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It's about 10 paragraphs long. Anyway, you know, good luck, and we'll know after this session how well it works, and I hope it does. Thank you.
Hang on, Bruce.
Hey, Bruce.
Yes, ma'am.
So are you indicating that you think we should just take out the words about the minority position and just let say it's the position of the city, and if they ask,
that's up to you, but it's like I have a secret. Well, everybody will want to know what the secret is. I don't know that the Clark County, my understanding is they really don't care what you say in Carson City, what you want or what you don't want. Clark County runs the state, I believe. Am I wrong, Mayor? I mean,
I don't know, the governor's from the north.
Okay, but in any event, no, I mean, you've all worked on it. Our new district attorney, who I'm a fan of, has worked on it. So give it a try. We're just, and I think it all comes back to how well you're going to enforce it. If somebody slips up and does something contrary to this, is it going to be a big issue, or are you going to let it slide? I mean, that's how hard are you going to enforce it? And because surely somebody, Brad will likely be the one that will screw up. So let's take it easy on him, and when he does. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Mr. Needhammer, good afternoon.
Once again, Carl Needhammer, resident of Carson City. I am not here to make any accusations against anybody, but I will say that the first draft in regards to this, I had serious problems with. It has now been, I think, massaged a little bit. And Jason Woodbury, our new district attorney, along with his deputy, have put a clause in there in regards to this does not breach a constitutional barrier of free speech. I'll stand by their decision. They are more legally trained than I am. However, I would just like to make this comment, just for public record. I would like to see language in there that says that an elected supervisor, a supervisor who may be in the minority of the opinion of the majority of the board, disagrees with the majority policies of the board. And as an elected supervisor, if he wishes to challenge the board at the legislature, I believe that that individual, he or she, should be able to do that. And the reason why is that the people who are in the minority on the board, who disagree with public policy or disagree with the direction in which the board is going to, at least should be able to, as an elected representative, not naming anybody. We have 2 people on the board who are a minority. We have 3 that are a majority. They still represent a constituency. And I believe that the language could be changed a little bit, that an elected representative, a duly elected representative of the Board of Supervisors, may challenge anything. And I go back to this. Maybe I'm just old. I'll be 67 in March. I'm uncomfortable with this because it's not what my fellow Vietnam veterans and every other veteran ever fought for when it came to free speech. I'm not making character assassinations. But I believe that minority opinions are just as valid as majority opinions. And you can learn from minority opinions. I understand that you want to go ahead and speak in a consolidated or a majority voice, and you don't need people doing that. I don't know what the process is, Your Honor, and members of the board, as to whether Mary Walker presents to the legislature an entire packet and says these are our agenda items. I think people should work together. So I would like to see language, Mr. Woodbury, that at least suggest that a minority opinion be just as valid as a majority opinion. I've analyzed this, and thought maybe that a happy medium would be, if nothing else, we present the majority opinion, and there's a written minority opinion as an addendum presented to the legislature. That way you have satisfied the majority opinion, yes, but the minority opinion is also presented in a fair and balanced way.
Well, why not just have all five go do what they want to do and forget any of this and just have five people go do what they're going to do?
No, I understand the position, Your Honor. I'm not suggesting, I'm just saying that this was an issue that was brought up and it should be addressed. I make no decision one way or another as to which way I would like it or which way the board would like it. I am only presenting another, I guess I'm presenting a minority opinion. But, and I'll make one last comment. If we do not have a minority opinion, then we become almost dictatorial. That's a personal opinion. I understand your position, Your Honor. Why not have every five go? Well, it's called a majority, but at least present the other side. It can be done, I guess, verbally. I would not like to see it verbally because they only have 120 days in which they have to get their work done.
What I'm just suggesting, just in terms of discussion here, it's a fascinating discussion. What I'm saying is, we don't have a contract lobbyist. We don't have any lobbyists. We don't go over there at all. If they've got five elected board members, you got Jason is elected, Woodbury's elected DA. Let them all go do what they're going to do. There is no city position, period.
No, I think there's a consolidated.
And
there's a consolidated majority opinion as to where the city is going to go.
What's the value of a majority opinion if you believe that minority and majority are the same? What's the value in going through the drill to create a majority opinion?
Well, I would only suggest this to Your Honor. The Supreme Court has a majority opinion, they have a concurring opinion, and they have a dissenting opinion, and they're all published. That's the only point I would make.
Yeah, gotcha. Go. Hey, hang on, Carl.
Is there potentially a compromise in the fact that your contract lobbyist and your city manager are going to present the majority viewpoint of your city?
As I read this, Ms. Bagwell, that's what I see.
However, I don't know that it would be their job to represent the minority version, but any one of us should be able to go, as you indicated, and represent our minority view. I agree with you there, that I should be able to go testify at the legislature as my own self with a minority, but not the contract lobbyist and the city manager.
I agree with your comments, Ms. Bagwell, but I think in fairness to the majority, you identify yourself as an elected official. If you're Supervisor Shirk or Supervisor Abowd and you disagree with that, at least you're representing your constituency. I am not suggesting by any means, and I understand both legal arguments and both policy arguments. This is something that I think has to be fleshed out, but what I am saying is, even though I may disagree with the minority, I think they need to be heard because they have been duly elected to this board. They represent a constituency that may disagree with the majority, and that can be fleshed out, to be quite frank with you, at the polls. But that minority opinion, at least in my opinion, has to be published. And I'll tell you one more thing, Your Honor, and then I will leave. At some point, you might be in the minority. I wasn't talking to you, Mr. Shirk, but thank you for making the comment. I'm just saying that a majority may come into a minority. If you limit the minority's speech, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face because you may end up in the same position. We talk about transparency. I think this is a classic example of transparency. I understand that you want a full force and the city manager and the rest of the representatives here. Maybe you can limit those people who, and a share for whatever the case the gentleman said, right? But you're the elected representatives. That's the reason we have 3 or 5. There's always going to be somebody that's going to go ahead and object. But when it comes to legislative issues, I believe the minority voice should be heard. And it does not necessarily mean, Your Honor, that they have to bypass the city manager. The city manager, you could write, I don't know, a 20-page addendum as to why you disagree with it. At least there's a hard copy and it's made public. That's my only point, and I'll take my leave unless there's any questions.
I think you got some discussion going on up here, so Brad, go ahead.
I have a question for you, Carl.
Oh, not you, Brad. I don't want to talk to you.
I know. Not many people do, but you're stuck with me for now.
Well, I know, and you're stuck with me too, and I'm starting to have my doubts as to why I showed up.
Do you see a distinction between the minority opinion during the vetting and discussion process that we have here at the board when we make a policy decision, and then after the fact, after we've made that decision and it goes to the city manager or to the legislature as a policy of the board? Because I do see a distinction, and though I agree with you that the minority opinion is important, I think the minority opinion is heard. It's heard here at the board during discussion and during the vetting process. We use that information to make a decision. Once we make the decision, then we should go forward united. So do you see a distinction between those?
First off, I agree with your premise, but I disagree with your conclusion. You're absolutely right that any policy or any discussion that we've had in the Board of Supervisors on anything, from golf courses to whatever the case may be, or legislative agenda, has already been vetted. It's been done in public, you've voted on it, you've moved on to it, okay? But that's at this level. If you're going to take those agendas to the state, then the minority position from this board up to the state should be heard. Now, maybe I'm old school. I'm just saying, what harm? What are you afraid of? If the minority wants to voice their opinion to the legislature, just like the majority wants to make their opinion known, it does no harm. I go back to Hippocrates, right? First you shall do no harm. I see no harm in the minority opinion being presented to the legislature any more than I see any harm of the majority opinion being done. So, yes, I agree with your premise that it's already been vetted, but people's memories are short. And if you're going to the state legislature, then our state legislature, take it to P.K. O'Neill, take it to your representative, but at least it should be done. If we're talking about transparency in government, I see no harm of having the minority opinion being presented. Any other questions?
Since you're being so eloquent, let me ask you a question.
Oh, there's been a lot of things said about me, but eloquent is not one of them, Your Honor.
The community voted this past election to not change ward voting, not go to ward voting.
And I'll go on the record, and I was against it.
And keep in mind Dillon's rule that you talked about. Okay?
Yes.
Suppose I disagree with that. I'm a minority. Now, should I go to, and there's going to be a bill that's going to want to push ward voting down on us again. I'm a minority. Wasn't that way when I voted with this, but suppose I am a minority.
I understand.
Should I be able to go to that legislative meeting and say, this is absolutely wrong, you need to put ward voting on us? Or should I be required to live by the vote of the people? Which one should I take?
Well, I'll always go with a consensus, a general feeling as to where we should go and where we should not go. We elected you to make policy decisions. I, as an individual, can go before just as a common citizen, can go before the legislature and go, I disagree with everything that the Board of Supervisors has said. But an elected official who has more information and has more status than I do and has a minority view, that minority view should be published and should be on the record the same as Carl Needhammer as a citizen lobbyist.
Thanks, Carl. You are eloquent today. No, I'm not just being facetious.
Are there any other questions?
Okay.
If not, I thank the board for its time.
Thank you, Carl. It was a good discussion on democracy here. All right, Mr. Carver.
Well, you stole most of my thunder. I had prepared notes, so I'll skip to the middle here. My name is Chris Carver, for the record. Our form of government prevails because we don't stifle dissent. We encourage and embrace it. Should you vote in favor of this resolution, you are putting a lie to what we as a nation and as a community stand for and what you are elected to represent. As a voting citizen, I'm not alone in my shame that my city government is even contemplating what's contained in that paragraph about restricting the voice of the minority. No one should need to remind you that this body consists solely of democratically elected representatives of our citizens, and it is our voices, large and small, which you are privileged to represent. Two of you campaigned specifically on this topic less than 3 months ago. The people who serve as the committee members and the board represent all of us, including those with dissenting views. The minority opinion is part and parcel of whatever the city position may be. In your official capacity, you have a duty to provide full representation and disclosure to those who elected you. In addressing the legislatures and their staff, they are seeking the truth, the whole truth. And by omitting the minority opinion, you are deliberately denying them of a portion of the essential information that led to that majority decision. And you are, in fact, lying by omission. If the city's majority position is truly the most logical and responsible, then it will easily stand on its own merits regardless of the minority opinion. A policy statement inclusive of opposing viewpoints is strong precisely because it relies on integrity as its foundation. As an example, the Supreme Court consistently finds the courage to include a minority opinion in its rulings. They hold no sway, but they serve to advise all of us that the matter was fully considered. It may be administratively inconvenient to include minority viewpoints, but if you ever want to represent the truth in anything else that you do, then you must allow it now. Politics is messy business. It is made so by those who seek to repress the views of the minority. The city's political engagement strategy should reflect sound judgment, integrity, ethics, and not rely on the repression of a minority viewpoint as a matter of convenience. We are so frequently if we are truly a house divided, we are so frequently because your colleagues in the minority, as we saw today, have been marginalized and maligned, both here and in the media. Someday, perhaps each one of you may be the minority opinion, and on that day, you will want the city to do the right thing by including your views when talking with your legislative counterparts. This draft resolution promises to suppress the minority opinion of our elected and appointed representatives and stifle dissent for the sake of administrative convenience. Further, this language will become part of our historical record. Before you vote, I'd like you to ask yourselves, is this really what you stand for? Is this what you want our city to represent? As you think about your careers, your families, your children, and in our city, I hope that the answer to this question is that you stand for integrity and you want better for our city. Questions?
Mr. Carver.
Thank you for your time.
No, I do have a question for you. Can you reconcile your statement with item B, subsection I, subsection 8, number 1, which specifically says that anybody can go to the legislature as a private citizen and communicate their opinion, and that it in fact is not consistent with the city's position. I don't see anything in here that prevents anybody, including one of us, if we were in the minority opinion, from going to the legislature and testifying, as long as we do it as a private citizen. So I'm just interested in your viewpoint on that.
Well, you know as well as I do that time at the podium is granted to those with the most authority. So if I walked over to the legislature and wanted to make a statement on city policy, I'm probably not going to get my 5 minutes of fame. But you will, because you're an elected representative. Mr. Shirk will, because he's an elected representative. And inclusive of the minority position in the majority statement, that we considered this also, or this was the opposing viewpoint, and this is our rationale for not following that, is an honest attempt to do what we're asking you to do, is govern us fairly. So yes, I understand what you're saying. There is no reconciliation between your authority as a supervisor and mine as an average citizen. But you know that my voice isn't going to carry weight at the podium, and yours will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm going to say we get rid of it all.
Good afternoon. For the record, Morris White. You are elected officials. As elected officials, I want you to represent me as an elected official. If you go to the legislature in the minority position, I don't want you to throw my vote away and speak as a private person. I want you to represent me as you are elected to do. So far today, I have seen nobody support this policy. That should tell you something.
Other public comment, sorry.
For the record, Fred Volz. I'd like to make one other comment that I haven't heard so far today, and that is it's very important when representing people to know that sometimes the minority perspective becomes the majority. And I'll give you a historical example of that. That would be the Tonkin Gulf Resolution that the U.S. Senate passed in the 60s that ramped up the Vietnam War. That led to us not winning a major war for the first time in this country's history.
Not so certain that's correct, but go ahead.
Well, I believe so, Mayor, but I'll just finish the statement. It turned out that history proved that Vietnam was not exactly the smartest thing for us to do as a country. It's very important to get those minority perspectives out in the world, and I heartily encourage that elected officials should not be muzzled in any way, shape, or form to speak as an elected official, even if they're not representing majority. Thank you.
Let me ask you a question. Do you understand Dillon's rule?
I think I have a fair understanding of it, yes.
Do you favor or not favor Dillon's rule?
I think it's situational. It depends on the context that it's being used in. But the point is, whatever rule is there, and I appreciate what Mr. Needhammer said, if it doesn't make sense in today's context, then it needs to be changed. That's why we have a legislature.
Well, here's the question that I'm going to, and you answer this. If you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. Don't get me wrong.
I'll try.
If the minority opinion is equal to the majority opinion and should always be communicated with the majority opinion, it seems to me that it's a waste of time at the local level to do the drill to find a majority and minority opinion, and that you might as well just go straight to the legislature individually and not even worry about, and let them make the decision and not make anything at the local level. What's wrong with that approach? Well, just let the legislature make the decision.
I think your premise is faulty, Mayor, because you're starting from the assumption that the underlying premise is that nobody can do anything without a majority rule. And like it was said previously, you have courts of appeal that sit en banc, just like the U.S. and the state Supreme Court. They publish every one of those positions. Even if they don't have a majority of people, there might be just one dissenter that has an opinion. Those opinions are published, and they're used to come up with dissents and legislative precedent and legal precedent from those.
Except that the legislature doesn't publish dissenting. They have a bill. They don't publish what the dissent was, and there's no legislative history to a dead bill. So
No, but there's no need to publish it, but why can't that opinion be expressed orally through testimony to the legislature?
Well, I think that's what the language right here says that you could do. I mean, that's what Supervisor Minkowski just read.
Right, but the problem with that is it's as a private citizen, not as an elected official. And as Mr. Carver just said, there's a huge distinction between one person as a private citizen speaking and somebody who's an elected official.
And I go back to the original premise. If there's no distinction between a majority and minority position vis-a-vis a legislative enactment, why should we go through the drill at this body, at this local body, to determine a majority or minority position at all? Why should we do that?
Because it's important public policy making, that's why.
Well, I
And you
don't
need to
understand.
know what those other arguments are that aren't presented by the majority, and that's the only way you're going to get them out into the discussion.
It's been my experience is that when you bring an argument to the legislature, you're going to hear all of them anyway, no matter what. I mean, how you got to a majority opinion, somebody's going to want to know that. All I'm suggesting is if indeed there is a public policy issue and there's no distinction between majority and minority, then it doesn't make sense for this board to go through the drill of determining what's a majority opinion and what's a minority opinion. We might as well just say, no, we're not going to engage in the legislative policy. There are 63 people there, lay people, be them as they are. It's a citizen legislature. Let them go do what they're going to do. And that's what's, and if a board member wants to go testify, they can testify as a board member or not, but there'll be no city position. What's wrong with that?
I think there's a big problem with it because let's say something passes 5-0 or 4-1 or 3-2. That makes a difference in how much weight a legislator would give to what that entity, that county did or didn't do. That would suggest that there were strong arguments on the other side that didn't sway those two people to go along with that policy. And that's important if whatever the legislature is going to do vis-a-vis counties and cities, they need to know that.
Well, nothing wrong with that, but I think that the issue you get to is if you go down the road of having a majority and minority opinion, go down that road, okay? Mm-hmm. And I personally don't understand how you can draw a distinction between 4-1 and 3-2 or whatever, because I think it's either minority opinion or it's not depending on the vote. But if you go down that road, it seems to me that you would want the elected officials, once they've made a decision, a majority decision, you'd want those elected officials, I guess this is what's being said, you want those elected officials to go to the legislature and say, this is the position of Carson City. But there's a minority position, and I want to tell you about why this minority opinion is good and why it really should have been adopted by the city. Is that what you're getting at?
No, I'm simply saying it should be a factual presentation. Here's the majority opinion.
Well, there's no problem.
This is why they did it. Here's the minority opinion. This is why they held those beliefs. You don't have to give any editorial opinion about it in any way, shape, or form. Just state it.
Well, I think that when at least I've always been told, when you're talking to legislators, you tell them the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I don't care what it is. I mean, both sides of the story.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know what lobbyists have to say versus cities versus other people. All right. Who are trying to sway them.
Well, I think we can address the issue of the other one. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I'm engaging in something here. I don't know what to call it.
May I approach the bench?
Sure.
Yes. I went outside to compliment Mr. Niedheimer. That was probably the best I've seen him here. I think the other thing is think how nice it will be for a city manager or your Mary Walker to be able to say, here's an issue they were unanimous in. I mean, so that's a plus. Because now you've raised the issue for an assemblyman to ask, was it 3-2, was it whatever? So you've raised the issue. So talk among yourselves. Try to get more unanimous decisions. But the other part of the scenario that you left out when you've been to many legislatures is I think this legislature, the committee chairman and the assemblyman, the majority and the minority just switched. So what you say may be different this session than what you've had in the previous session. I mean, all the legislatures, they're used to all of this. They're going to hear it. Like you say, all the truth will come out. But if you have a majority, 3-2, well, then be proud of it. It is what it is. And it'll be how the people hearing it receive that. and what the issue is. We're talking about things.
Personally, I would, I'm getting to the point where I really don't see the distinction between a majority and minority.
Well, you should be proud of it. You won the election. 3 of you won. It isn't, we wanted to make it different, sir. We wanted to have it 3-2 the other way, but it isn't. You won. Be proud of it and stand up and do what you think. And I mean, we don't have a problem with that.
Does it help, Bruce, if you put in here that when testifying before a legislative body that the city manager or whoever he delegates to say, well, tell him what the vote count was?
I probably wouldn't I would do it like a deposition. I wouldn't bring it up unless somebody asked me. And I think whoever goes up there to speak should, my understanding is you always have to identify who you are. Are you an elected person or are you just a citizen? I mean, we're not going to hide it. I mean, we're in Carson City. Thank you.
Should. It's fine. Fine. Should.
Can you repeat what you said, Lori, please?
I think maybe part of the discussion is because our policy here is saying shall not communicate a minority board position, that's where everyone is the sticking point. And maybe we could all work together to fix that. It's not that you can't ever tell the legislature what the minority position was, and I don't believe any of us here are asking the city manager to go and say something that was not accurate of the record of our decisions. And so maybe we can just clean that language up slightly, and Jason can help us, because I think the shall not communicate a board minority position is a little strong. And so maybe we can come up with something a little better there to meet everyone's need.
I would agree, Lori. I think it could say shall communicate a board minority position.
Yeah, and take out the word not.
Yeah.
Chris Carver for the record again, and the Mayor, I'd like to just address your question that if in fact the legislature does get the whole truth and nothing but the truth at the end of the day, then why do you need a resolution that prescribes behavior?
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, that's the drill I was going down that I got shot down on. I'm sorry. I didn't make it that clear, but that's where I was heading, is that you don't need a resolution then.
And that's my opinion. I would rather that the city be silent on what our elected officials.
Well, you and I may not be far apart.
Okay. Then I'll shut up then. Thank you.
That's what a judge told me a lot, so, okay. Another shot, go. Mr. Kittis, Bruce.
But in your policy, there are some good things. It's good to have a city manager, to have somebody responsible for coordinating. That's a good thing. I think it's good to have a public hearing on what policies you want or don't want, what BDRs you're for or not for. Those are good. So I think it's only this part about as soon as you say you shall not, I mean, that's a red flag. I mean, that means we'll do it. And if you want to pass it the way it is, whoever it is, if Brad has a minority opinion, it's fun to pick on him. If he has it, then a couple of our constituents will go up and say, Brad thought this, but he's restricted from talking to you. So I think that's the part that is, but there are good parts of your resolution, the coordination and so forth. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. I think our new member has come up with a potential solution. I'm not certain that. I think you have to say, you can't just take the word not, you have to, should not, I think is what you want to say there, but.
How about even just may communicate a board minority position? Sure. So if someone's asking on the record and they're talking about it, it gives them the authority to talk about it instead of saying that the city manager cannot talk about it or the lobbyist. Now they may in the discussion with the legislative body. So can we just?
I have a suggestion.
May?
So the last 2 lines would read, staff, including the city's contract lobbyists, may have the discretion to communicate a board minority position.
They never will. They're never going to communicate it. If even with that language, they won't do it. And I think the language saying that we're not going to, and Carl's not here. If he was, he'd probably be upset that I'm agreeing with him, and Mr. Carver. Both of these gentlemen make great arguments. I mean, I read this. When I read this the first time, I took this and threw it in the trash. I didn't go to Vietnam. I didn't see my buddies die to have my voice stifled in any aspect of it. I fought for this country. I served this country. I have nephews serving this country right now. My voice does matter. When someone says the minority doesn't matter, you're totally wrong. This country, as much as we love it, was formed on the minority voice. It carries a lot of weight. When you go before another jurisdiction, another body, another government, my voice matters. My vote matters. How I vote matters. You may not like it, but my vote matters. And how I voice my opinion matters. I'm a minority. Obviously, on this board, I'm a minority a lot of the time, but my opinions, my vote carries weight. I didn't serve this country. My nephews are not serving this country, and my nieces and my daughter right now is in the Navy over in Hawaii serving her time, and you're going to take my vote away? This country was not formed on this foundation. You can twist it any way you like, that we don't need to say that. You can go over there as a private citizen. You know what? As an elected official, I have a right and a duty to voice my opinion and to stand up for the citizens that I represent. Any way you look at this, you can change the verbiage any way you want, but if my vote is discounted because it's a minority, that's shameful. That's my opinion.
All right. I think we'll take a motion that we not have a resolution and that we have, we do not participate in the legislative process unless a specific bill is brought to us somewhere, but otherwise we don't. Yeah, that's
Something else?
no. We have no resolution. Anybody want to make a motion like that?
No.
No?
Can we try a different answer?
Different motions.
Can we try one more thought?
You just became the minority, Mayor.
There you go.
Yeah, man, I see. You see, Jim, you're looking down there and you're saying you were always, I mean, I just got shot down.
How about that we just strike under BIA1? We just take the A1 section out. Everyone, I did not hear any testimony of concern in any of the other policy areas. And so if we just struck A1 and renumbered B as A and C as B, then all opinions of people can be expressed without a policy. And then would that solve the concern of the constituents?
Supervisor Bagwell, just to follow you, which section are you talking about?
The section that they are objecting to is BI, and then it's the A1 section. So if we just struck that and renumbered, I don't believe anyone testified on any of the other procedural parts of our resolution. It was just the objection about the testimony at the legislature, if I recall everyone's testimony. So I don't think this would hurt the resolution, would leave us intact with instructions for the city manager and staff, but would take the objectionable minority position being removed. So if we just remove that section, would that work?
But are you talking about B small I A? Okay,
Yes.
I thought you were talking about the one underneath that.
No,
but
the
okay.
little A, well, when you strike the A, you don't need the one because we're not stifling anyone's right to go and talk. The rest would.
Mayor, if I may? Okay, well, we've had the public comment on this. We have not had board discussion about this. So there is more to this than just that. Striking that does not make this resolution fly. Maybe it does, but I mean, if you look at 2A1, when it says the preferred method, okay, what's the preferred method? Well, here it is, of determining the city's position on, well, if we don't have the preferred method, and who's going to distinguish what that method is? And if you go down further in 2A2, or II, whatever it is, if you look at that, when time does not permit, well, that could be at any time. Oh, it didn't permit me to do this today. I can't do it. I don't have the time. I'm busy. So as a result of this legislation requirements beyond the city's control, when time does not permit, Well, that's leading down a pathway that grants any latitude to anybody to say, I didn't have time today, sorry, we're going to do it this way now. I think there's a lot of things in this resolution that is just arbitrarily leaves open the door for any person, not just the city manager, but any person in charge to determine what he will do and what he will not do, and how he will do it, and in what time frame he's going to do it. And if anything, this board should be directing the city manager to go this route or this route, and our votes matters, however we look at it. So I think there's a lot more discussion here, but I'm not in favor of any of this, because just of the verbiage alone, no one can stand behind this and say this is a great piece of I don't know. It's just not good on any shape or form.
Okay. Nobody wanted to take my motion that was kind of just how you ended up there, Jim, so that one doesn't work. You and I are now in the minority again, so, or in the minority. Okay. However that is. Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion and further discussion of this? I mean, I think.
Does Lori want to make her motion?
You want to make a motion, or do you want to just de facto do what I suggested?
Well, let me ask the different question then, before I consider a motion. Why was it necessary to bring this resolution forward? Did we have issues in the past that because you didn't have direction, we ended up having no solid legislative work? I mean, let's start with the premise of why is this resolution even being brought forward?
Sure. This resolution is not unprecedented either in Carson City or in Nevada. In fact, it's modeled very closely after a couple of other counties, to include Washoe and others, almost verbatim. This is not anything new either for Carson City, as it mirrors very closely the policy that you adopted for the previous session. And as I said in the beginning, there were only a few minor edits that I had done to that document based on the former Chief Deputy District Attorney's recommendations. We made additional ones based on recommendations from District Attorney Woodbury. That's this document. Again, it's not unprecedented. The time limits in it really refer back to the time limits that are mandated by the open meeting law. So it's not just an arbitrary, well, I don't feel like I have enough time today. No, it's how much time do we need? You know, the 3-day clock, for example, starts ticking. Do we have enough time to get the full board, or get at least a quorum of the board, to make a policy decision on a potential bill draft? As you know, the legislature is not subject to the open meeting law, and they're not subject to the timelines contained within that. So they're on a whole different schedule. That's why that is in there. If I may also respectively point out, I've done a lot of testimony. I've prepared a lot of testimonies to the Congress. You speak much more forcefully with one voice. You can have all the, this is your decision. I'll execute whatever policy you give me. But Carson City is much more effective with one voice. And I understand the concerns. You know, this goes right to the heart of some of the arguments that were made back, you know, by James Madison in the Federalists. But we can have a constitutional debate too about this. But that is the basis of this document. It's a previous Carson City policy. It mirrors very closely other Nevada counties, and the timelines really do reflect the requirements that are contained within the open meeting law. But again, in the end, this is your policy decision. We'll execute whatever you come up with. I do have it up here, so if you do want to modify this document in any way, we're ready to make those changes.
So let me just ask, do you need this policy? Because one of the recommendations is just don't do a policy at all. So my question is, do you need the other items to know what to do? Or does this, if we don't pass anything at all, does that leave you with no instructions whatsoever from this board?
I would just respectfully say this is your policy. It's not mine. I think you'd be
I
more.
can address that. I think because we've been through this drill several times now, and we drilled it before the last legislative session as well. And I think what's happening here is that people don't know what the city's position is, or if the city manager's, what's the city manager doing? Are you complying with the open meeting law? Has the board been involved in these decisions, or is this just you going out on your own and things like that? And so that's why when I suggested that we just do away with the policy, I mean, you got to step out all the way, because otherwise you put him in an untenable position of saying, I don't know what the board wants, so you just tell him, okay, Nick, we're done. You let them go do what they're going to do, and your staff people, they go do what they're going to do and stay on their own. Stay doing what their city day job is. And, but otherwise, if we don't have a policy that directs him how to act when the legislature asks him certain things, that's when it hurts. That's when you need something like this, and that's the downside. So.
I'll take a stab at a motion, but I guess I need a resolution number.
That would be me.
Right? Don't I need a resolution number to make a motion on this one?
Yes. Yes.
That would be Sue.
That's 2015 R1.
Yes. Number 1, 2015. Okay.
Quite fitting.
Can I make a suggestion before you read a motion?
Yes.
Because Supervisor Shirk said that he had some other concerns
Oh,
in here. Maybe
yes,
we
I
should go
agree.
through and address all concerns before anybody makes a motion.
I agree with that. I thought he just said it was on that too. Okay. You have more than
I already voiced some of them. I've already voiced some of them.
All right, well, we can take a motion and discuss further on the motion.
There it goes.
Well, that's how we do things. I mean, we can continue to discuss, or we can tee up a motion and find out what we want to do. Otherwise, we could be here talking all night. So, I mean, one way or the other. I mean, guys, we got to, as somebody once said, if the bird's sitting on the branch, you either peep or get off the branch.
Okay.
So, we can take a motion. If it doesn't, if it doesn't fit, we can discuss it, make changes to it, or whatever we want to do. So, all right.
Okay.
Motion's in order.
I move to adopt resolution number 2015-R1, a resolution establishing city policies on state legislative issues for the 2015 session of the Nevada Legislature, striking B, I, A, and 1, and then renumbering appropriately.
Second for discussion.
Yeah.
Second for discussion. Discussion's in order.
That's your cue, Jim. Do you have other items that you want to talk about here?
I did talk about them already. I told you
don't-
what I
don't
didn't
have any-
like.
Okay, you went through them pretty quickly. I didn't write them down.
Okay. 2A1, or I don't think it's 2AI. When it says the preferred method of determining, I don't like the language. 2A double I.
Do you have a suggestion on changing it or deleting it, or what would you like to do to it?
At this time, no, I don't. And I appreciate you asking, but no, I don't, because I just don't think the determination of the city policy should be a preferred method. I think there should be some sense of stability of what our position is.
You have to help me. That's what I read that first sentence to say, Jim. I'm missing what you're saying there.
It says the preferred. So when somebody does something differently, they go, well, you can't hold me accountable because there is no language that says I have to do it this way. It says the preferred method. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I think there's an out in that verbiage. That's my opinion.
So, Jim, would it be better to say the method of determining the city's position on any legislative?
Okay, you can't talk.
Sorry, you can't always do it because of the time problem.
Talk still. You have to be called on. I learned that.
Hey, no, go. Come on, guys. We're trying to get it worked
What
out
I'm
and
saying
discussed.
is, I think the verbiage, I don't think you can determine that today in this room at this moment unless you're willing to sit here for a couple hours and go through this. I think what we're bringing up is the DA takes it back. He comes back with a better formatted resolution. I think the way this is put together it's stifling to me how we even got this far and how it even got to the board. The next one is 2AI, or double I, when the time does not permit. Well, that leaves an open door to escape out the back door. It doesn't even make sense. I don't see how anybody can agree to this verbiage at all. And I mean, I can go through here continuously, but the mayor said he didn't want to spend all day on it. So unless you're willing to spend all day.
It's not a question of not spending, let's just back off. It's not a question of not spending all day. It's a question of trying to organize a discussion to lead to a resolution one way or the other, up or down. That's all we're trying to do here. I mean, you know, we can throw stones at each other all we want, but, you know, at the end of the day, that doesn't solve the issue of, you know, do we move forward on this or don't we, and how we're going to get going. So let's just try and, we're on the motion. Any other changes to that motion that we want to discuss?
Yeah,
Go.
hold on. I'm not throwing stones. I'm voicing my opinion, a minority opinion, and it matters.
Well, it may be a minority opinion, it may not. I mean, so far, I don't think you and I are too far apart, but, okay. Any other changes? Anything?
Mr. Mayor, I might be able to address Supervisor Shirk's position. I don't know if it's a satisfactory answer, but the way that this is structured is that there is no city position until there is a majority vote of the Board of Supervisors. So when time permits, the city may entertain and take a position, but only by the majority vote. In lieu of that, when time doesn't permit, the city manager may take a position, but that's distinct from a city position. It's a city manager position. And further back in the draft resolution, it indicates that city manager position will be communicated to each individual member of the board, and a board member may agendize that for a discussion at the next meeting. But that's the time permitting and the preferred method. That was the purpose of the language.
I understand that position, but the trouble is, he could take a position without the board approval. Am I wrong?
He could take a city manager position, but not a city position.
But when you go to the legislature, and as a city manager, you sit there and you say, my position, okay, without the board's approval, okay, I get it, it's in the resolution. I don't like that either. It is a board decision to make these decisions. It is not up to the city manager to go there and state his position. And the other factor we're not figuring in here is the lobbyist herself, she should be part of this discussion as well. Her contract and everything should be put together so that they're coordinated and working together. Because if you read her contract, I'm a little iffy on that as well. So I think there's a lot of issues with this resolution. I understand what you're saying, but I disagree with that as well.
Okay, and I understand. There is a distinction in the resolution between a city position, which only the board can take, and a city manager's position. I just want to make sure you got that.
I understand that, but when you're sitting, and I've been to those meetings, and I think the way this was drafted is in 2013, I was at that session testifying there. That's how this resolution originally got started, from that session, when I went there.
No, I think this resolution was passed before the session started.
It says in 2013.
Yeah, it was prior to the legislature even starting. We did it.
Right, you're correct.
I mean,
I take
you
that.
voted on it. You voted in favor of it.
That's correct. That's correct. That was in my first term, unknowledgeable and going along. That was my fault. I would have, if I had to do it all over again, I would not vote in favor of it back then. So I wanted to clear the air about that. I made a mistake on that vote, and I won't make it again today.
Okay. All right. Further discussion? All right. Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. Okay. All right. Let's take up, where are we? Non-action items. Any board member? Future agenda items, we're going to be meeting again on the 15th. Is that what it is? Okay. All right.
Can I say something?
Go, Supervisor Bagwell, go.
Just as for future agenda items, when Carol was up earlier, this is the area in which we can talk about that as agendized. Maybe potentially we should have discussions on how we do board appointments here. And so, again, it doesn't have to be next month, because certainly we've done the appointments for a year, but I would like to see that we come up with a process for doing board appointments. And so I'd just like that as a future discussion item.
And so the process we used today was Robert's Rules of Order. Okay.
But
All right.
All right.
All right. All right. All right. Anything else come before the board?
Yes.
We're ready. Shoot, Jim. Go.
Open discussion. I just want to touch base on a couple of things. One, I received this packet. I talked to the district attorney earlier that I received this packet on marijuana, about the licenses and so forth. If I could pass this along to you, if that's okay. So it'll be here for you. Also, I brought up, and in an email, I asked that this be submitted to the Water and Sewer Oversight Committee. It's John McKenna's briefing of what he thinks should be discussed, and I think it's very important. He had some great points. I'd like to submit that to give to the Oversight Committee. Also, I did mention, it took last time, now we have a new board member, I know we're going to be going for a new picture, and last time that took over a year to get that, so I brought up that we need a new official picture taken, just as a point of reference. Two, I also, Tammy Shelton had contacted the Board of Supervisors regarding some non-payment, and I asked that that be forwarded to the district attorney as well, and to Kyle, who oversees the Brewery Arts Center board. Also, we received letters from Dwight Millard about a tax assessment for 2 city parks that still remain in his name. I'd like to see if we can get that cleaned up. Also, previously, I brought to the board's attention, the Humane Society agreed to an oversight committee, and at the last board meeting, I again brought that up, and no such committee has been formed as of today, to my knowledge. I know there's a tour going on out there tomorrow, but this still has not been taken care of. And I want to speak for the minority on the appointment of these boards today. You know, as an elected official, I hope to be part of the process and share in the responsibility with these other board members. You know, I look at this as an opportunity to serve my community and to be, in my opinion, not even granted one position on any of these boards. Reluctantly, I think that's shameful of all these board members, that this took place to put me in an isolation that is just, I think, wrong on every level of trying to, what I've been coached on here is try to work together, work together, work together. I've heard it for the past 2 years. And I would suggest that maybe this board would look at that and evaluate it as well. Along that same line, I do want to comment, I've made suggestions as to where the new, as many people may not know, the Board of Supervisors will no longer have offices in the executive office. Not a problem, I understand that. But the offices that we are being given, I think are unacceptable. I think they're below standards, and I think I made suggestions on what should be taking place, and I mentioned that the 2 offices that will be given to the new Board of Supervisors and myself should be giving to the people who are not even on city payroll that are contracted out. Those should be their offices. The area between those 2 offices should be their conference room. They are not on city payroll. They are, I believe I'm trying to remember what they classified them as. Let me see if I can find it, because they're with the building department, and they're outsourced. They're outsourced. And here we have 2 Board of Supervisors that will be moved into offices that are simply below the standards of people who are outsourced through the community or through our tax dollars. They're getting better offices than we are, and we're the elected officials. Now, anybody that, I don't have a problem with it, and I'll move on and I'll accept these offices, but I want to voice my opinion. I strongly disagree with this arrangement that's being made. I mean, as I walk out of the executive office, it's been a pleasure to have an office space that was shared by Pete Livermore. And the heritage that goes along with these offices, I feel a real significant heritage of being a part of something that was bigger than me and bigger than anybody else in this room. But to stoop to the level we're going to at this juncture, I just want to voice my opinion and let the public know this is unacceptable. But I will accept it, I will move forward, and I won't look back. That's all my opinions. Thank you.
Other board comments? Are we ready to adjourn? Public comment? Let's try not to be repetitive if we can, Chris, but go ahead, shoot.
I'll try very hard.
Don't worry about it.
Earlier this afternoon, you guys voted on Mallory Wilson's appointment to the Equalization Board, I would like to see in future nominations for board positions or committee positions, some type of a resume or curriculum vitae or something that justifies the qualifications for the individual to sit in these positions, especially one that affects my wallet.
Okay.
And I won't repeat myself.
All right. Further public comment? Anybody? All right, then we're, unless there's an objection, we are adjourned.